The cruelest twist isn't that her husband dies, it's that the man who cages her is also the only one keeping her alive. Elena loses everything in one night, but the real trap starts after the funeral. Marcus locks her away like property, controls every move she makes, and still somehow becomes the only person standing between her and a dozen ways to die. That's the emotional knife in this story. Adrian loved her gently, Marcus protects her brutally, and both forms of love come wrapped in blood. By the time the real traitor is exposed, Elena is no longer just the grieving widow. She has become the woman the Empire didn't see coming.
The dance barely starts before Elena Varley's pristine white dress gets a fresh coat of red paint. She married Adrian, the nice guy heir to the city's baddest crime family, thinking it was her get-out-of-jail-free card. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. He dies in her arms when their wedding gets shot up. The real horror show begins when his stone-cold brother, Marcus, steps right over Adrian's body. His eyes aren't grieving. They're burning with a psycho-possessive vibe as he drops 5 words that end her world. You are mine now. To see how Elena navigates this nightmare, you have to watch the bloody end. The fancy Varley mansion is about to become a 5-star abattoir. The mansion was a flex of pure perfection, from marble pillars to crystal chandeliers and picture-perfect gardens. It was right here, just 3 months back, that Elena fell for Adrian's promise of safety, that his family was a fortress. She pushed down every gut feeling that screamed this was a trap. Now in the bridal suite, her gown looked like spilled milk as she stared at her reflection. The dress cost more than her mom made in a year. The diamonds on her neck felt less like a gift and more like a collar. The smile she was rocking, though, was 100% fake. "You look incredible," Maria, the old attendant, told her, fixing her veil. But Elena saw the pity in the woman's eyes, the look you give a sacrifice, not a bride. "Thanks," Elena mumbled, feeling more like a business asset than a person. The Varlas needed a bride with a clean slate as a legit cover. Adrian needed a wife to make his dad happy, and Elena needed a safe house from the cartel that whacked her father and was now after her. She'd framed the whole thing in her head as a mutually beneficial contract. Adrian played the perfect gentleman through all the stuffy dinners of their short engagement. His kind act was a world away from the predators she knew. "Look, I know this is messed up," he'd admitted, "but I promise I'll be good to you, Elena." With no other cards to play, she decided to trust him. A knock on the door made her jump. "It's time," Maria said. Elena's hands trembled as she grabbed her bouquet, another prop for the perfect pure bride illusion. The ceremony went by in a total blur. The ballroom was done up like a fairy tale, with white flowers, gold trim, and enough candles to burn the whole place down. Hundreds of guests were there, shady politicians and CEOs with shark-like smiles. The Varley family held court in the front row like royalty. In contrast, Elena's side of the aisle was a ghost town. No family left and no friends brave enough to crash a mob wedding, besides a few relatives who were guilt-tripped into coming. At the altar, Adrian played the part, squeezing her hand like he meant it. "You're doing great," he whispered. The officiant started talking, but Elena heard nothing. Her eyes were glued on the man behind Adrian, his brother and best man, Marcus Varley. She'd met him once, at a dinner where he just sat there silently, sizing her up. Adrian had explained that Marcus handles the family's security, which was code for all their dirty work. If Adrian was handsome, Marcus was a straight-up animal. Taller, broader, with a face that looked like it was carved out of rock and then smashed with a hammer. A gnarly white scar sliced from his left eyebrow down to his jaw. His suit fit him perfectly, but he wore it like a cage he was about to bust out of. The way he stared at her wasn't admiration. Marcus looked at her like she was a bug he was about to squash, a problem that needed fixing. Elena ripped her eyes away, focusing on Adrian as they said their vows. His voice was convincing. For the kiss, he was careful, like she was fragile. The crowd clapped. The music swelled. The transaction was complete. She was now Elena Varley, property of a killer dynasty. The party kicked off immediately. Champagne flowed while a string quartet played for a room full of fake smiles and BS conversations. This was a business merger, not a marriage. Elena held a smile until her face hurt, shaking hands and instantly forgetting names. The congratulations were totally hollow. Adrian stuck by her, acting the doting husband, but he was wound tight, his eyes darting around the room like he was expecting an ambush. "Are you all right?" Elena whispered. "Fine," he shot back too quickly. "Just a lot of faces to watch." "It's security, isn't it?" He seemed surprised she noticed. "My father invited some business rivals. People who hate each other. It's fine. Marcus has guys everywhere. Nothing's gonna happen." But his white knuckles on his glass told her he was trying to convince himself. Elena followed his gaze and saw Marcus by the entrance, a shadow methodically scanning the crowd. He was a predator, sorting out threats, coiled and ready. Then, for a split second, his eyes met Elena's. The force of it was like an electric shock, and it definitely wasn't desire. It was something way darker, way more twisted. Maybe it was pure hatred, like she was guilty of a crime she hadn't even committed yet. She was the first to break eye contact. "Dance with me," Adrian asked, offering his hand. First dance. Another photo op, I guess. Elena let him lead her to the floor. The music changed to a waltz, and Adrian held her just close enough to look good for the pictures. "You're killing it," he said as they danced. "I know this is nuts." "It's fine," Elena lied. "After tonight, it'll be normal. I meant what I promised you, and I will take care of you." She was desperate to believe him. She clung to the hope that this fake marriage could actually work. As they moved, the room was a blur of fake smiles, nervous businessmen, and gossiping wives. And every time they turned, she saw Marcus on the edge of the crowd, always watching her, always judging. "Why does your brother hate my guts?" The question just popped out. Adrian's feet stumbled. "What? Marcus doesn't hate you." "He looks at me like I personally offended his ancestors." "That's just how Marcus looks at everyone. Don't worry about it." But his voice was tight. "He's protective. He's got trust issues. Give him time." Time? As if that would stop Marcus from staring at her like she was a disease. The music hit a high note. Adrian spun her, and for a half second, Elena almost bought the fantasy. Then the first gunshot ripped through the violins. It came from the doors. It was a loud crack that silenced everything. For a second, the whole room froze, trying to unhear it. Then a scream shattered the spell, and the ballroom exploded into chaos. Adrian's hand grabbed Elena's, pulling her down as more shots rang out. They hit the marble floor as glass shattered and people panicked. Elena couldn't see the shooter, just a chaotic mess of people running and falling. "Stay down!" Adrian yelled, trying to cover her with his body. But then he convulsed, and his grip on her went totally limp. A red spot blossomed on his white shirt, spreading way too fast. Adrian. He went from a shield to a dead weight, crushing her. His eyes were wide with a question he'd never get to ask. "Adrian." Elena held him as his blood soaked her dress. A wet whisper escaped his lips. "No, no, Elena, run!" She wasn't going anywhere. "I'm not leaving you." He gasped it out again, weaker. "Run." The light went out of his eyes. There was so much blood. She pressed her hands on the wound, but it was useless. She knew a fatal hit when she saw one. The band kept playing as Adrian died. In a flash, the fancy party turns into a full-blown massacre. Guns cracking, people shrieking, and champagne glasses smashing. Elena is frozen solid in the chaos, a statue in a hurricane of death. Her new husband's blood is all over her dress, her hands, her life. A brutal hand yanks her out of her shock. She looks up into the eyes of Marcus. His face is splattered with blood. His tux is ripped, but his gaze is dead calm, like he's watching a boring movie. "Let me go," she breathes, but it's useless. He just grips her tighter. "You need to get up now." Then he drops the 3 words that blow her universe to pieces. "Adrian is gone, and you're next if you stay." "That's not a choice. It's a threat," as he yanks her from Adrian's body, dragging her from the hall that's now a full-blown war zone. Elena's legs feel like they're not hers, her shredded gown catching on everything as Marcus carves a path to a side exit. The ballroom is straight-up carnage. Varelli's men are battling masked assassins over the bodies of their friends. The fancy hall has become a slaughterhouse. Marcus rips a door open, shoves her into a concrete hallway where the gunfire just becomes a dull, pounding beat. "Stay here," Marcus commands, killing the question on her lips. He's already spinning back toward the chaos, a pistol materializing from his jacket with a deadly ease. He moves like a predator, a total stranger to the guy whose brother is lying dead. Elena slides down the wall, shaking uncontrollably. Her wedding dress is now a death shroud, painted in Adrian's blood. Her hands won't stop trembling. He's gone. Her sweet Adrian, her protector, executed on what was supposed to be their first night. And his brother is walking back into that fire, a terrifying angel of vengeance she doesn't recognize at all. The shooting starts to fade. Each second stretches into forever. Elena hangs onto the frantic beat of her heart, just trying not to pass out. The door flies open and she flinches. It's Marcus, gun still raised, his hands now painted completely red. She can't even guess whose blood it is. "Is it over?" Her voice is barely a whisper. "For now." He tucks the gun away, his eyes finally landing on her. His gaze is a cold, clinical scan of her condition. The blood-soaked dress, the non-stop shaking, the tear-wrecked face. Like he's inspecting damaged goods. Some unreadable emotion flashes across his face and is gone. "Can you stand?" She nods, a lie she prays her legs will back up. He just turns and walks, assuming she'll follow. She forces her legs to move, trailing him like a shadow through the estate's hidden corridors. They pass armed goons, faces grim, clothes torn from the fight. A heavy, unspoken reality hangs in the air. They reach a private wing, still plush, but nothing like the grand ballroom. Marcus stops at a bedroom and pushes the door open. Elena hesitates at the entrance. The room is huge but sterile. A bed, a wardrobe, heavy curtains pulled shut. A gilded cage, fancy and freezing. "Inside," Marcus says. It's not a suggestion, it's a direct order. She goes in, he follows, and the door clicks shut behind them with a heavy finality. The quiet that falls over the room is heavy, like a suffocating blanket. Marcus is the one who breaks it, phone already at his ear. "It's finished. We lost 6, they lost 12. Adrian is dead." His voice is totally flat, like he's reading a battlefield report. "No, she's here with me. I have the situation under control." He hangs up, his cold, pragmatic eyes finding her again. "Take the dress off." The order hits her like a slap. What? It's covered in his blood. Bathroom's over there. Clean yourself up. You'll find clothes in the wardrobe. He's giving instructions, not comfort, to his brother's widow. I need to see Adrian. No. He is my husband. He was. That single word hangs in the air, a cruel final cut as he closes the gap between them. He doesn't lay a finger on her, but his presence is a crushing force, stealing all the air from the room. Adrian's body is being taken care of. You will shower, you will change, and you will stay here until I get back. You can't just lock me in here. I can do exactly what I want. His voice drops, turning into pure steel. You are a guest in my home and you are under my protection. You will do as you are told. Do you understand? Elena's throat closes up. This isn't a grieving brother. This is a warden laying down the law, absolute control. She is his prisoner. Why? She whispers. The slightest hint of dark humor touches his scarred mouth. Because you are an asset. Because they will come for you. Because whether you like it or not, you are now a Varelli. He leans closer, his voice a low threat. And because I know you will run the first chance you get. I have nowhere left to go. Exactly. Marcus backs off. Shower, change. The windows are wired. There will be a guard at this door. Do not test me. He turns, his hand on the doorknob. Marcus, her voice cracks. What's going to happen now? He pauses, a long, heavy silence filling the space. When he finally speaks, his voice is quiet, almost thoughtful. That, he says, the words both soft and absolute, is entirely up to you. He leaves, and the sharp click of the lock is the final, brutal word. For a moment, Elena is completely still before her composure shatters. She collapses onto the carpet, the ruined gown pooling around her as a tidal wave of grief finally hits. Adrian was gone, her protector, her promise of peace, her gentle love, snuffed out. In his place stood Marcus, a terrifying force who saw her as both a game piece and a prize, and who was now her keeper. She thought this marriage was her salvation. Instead, it had sprung a far deadlier trap. Finally, the sobs stop. Elena gets to her feet, wobbly but resolute. She knew that falling apart on the floor was a luxury she didn't have. The bathroom was as stark and cold as the bedroom, offering zero comfort. With shaking hands, she peels off the ruined dress, a second skin of her husband's blood, and lets it fall to the floor. In the shower, the water runs red, a pointless attempt to wash away the proof of Adrian's murder and the ghost of their stolen future. She stands there frozen until the water turns from clear to ice cold. The wardrobe only has men's clothes, Marcus's. She pulls on the smallest shirt and a pair of pants. They feel like an erasure of the bride she was just hours ago. Dressed in her captor's uniform, she sits on the bed to wait. While the world outside was pitch black, sleep gave her no escape, only night terrors that made her flinch at every tiny sound. The turn of a key in the lock, coming way too late or maybe far too early, means he's back. Marcus walks in with a tray, a simple meal of a sandwich, an apple, and water. He puts it on the dresser, his face hidden behind that familiar, unreadable mask of iron control. Eat, he orders, the word sharp and cold. She doesn't move. The men who attacked us? She asks. They're neutralized, he replies, his voice an empty void. The ones we could find. He takes a position against the far wall, a guard in a clean black shirt, but the stain of the night's bloodshed clings to him like a second skin. And the ones you couldn't? They will be found. Who were they? She demands. Do their names change anything? Yes. Her hands clench into tight fists, tiny points of defiance. Your brother died protecting me. I have a right to know who killed him. When she says Adrian's name, a crack appears in Marcus's armor, a flash of agony or rage or both before it's sealed shut again. Competitors, he says flatly. They figured a strike during a wedding would send a message. A muscle jumps in his jaw. They miscalculated. What message? That the Varelli family is vulnerable, overextended. He starts to pace, a caged tiger. My father's dynasty was built on fear. Adrian was the acceptable face, a civilized mask for a savage business. Tonight proved the specific strategy was a catastrophic failure. Elena watches his predatory pacing. And which are you? Marcus stops dead, his eyes locking with hers. I am the darkness that lets the family pretend to live in the light. You're the killer. I am. The admission is blunt, raw, and colder than any lie. Why am I alive? If I was a danger, you would have gotten rid of me. So what is my purpose here? Marcus observes her, a slow, calculating smile touching his lips, a smile with zero warmth. You are smarter than you let on. Just answer the question. You are a chess piece, he answers with brutal honesty. Your family name has value, and you are Adrian's grieving widow. This makes you a high-value target for our enemies. So, until I decide your next move, you will stay here, where I control all the pieces. I am a human being, not a piece on your board. In my world, Marcus closes the distance, his glare drilling into her. Everyone is a piece. You want the truth? Fine. I never approved of Adrian marrying you. I warned him it was a reckless move, that bringing a civilian into our life was an invitation for disaster. But he was stubborn. He insisted you needed our protection, that we owed a debt to your father. Elena's breath hitches. You knew my father? Everyone in this business knew Anthony Costa. He worked for us for 15 years before he made the mistake of trying to walk away. Marcus's face turns to granite. Adrian convinced our father to give him a clean exit, to let him take his daughter and vanish. And just like that, her entire bubble of safety got torched by the berry monsters she was running from. Her whole world flipped upside down. Wait, my dad was an asset for the Varellis? He was the mastermind behind our fortune. He knew where every single dollar came from and went. The second he wanted out, he went from our biggest advantage to our biggest liability. Marcus stared at her, zero pity in his eyes. Adrian was drowning in his guilt. He thought marrying you would fix everything. I told him it was a stupid idea, that you'd just become a target. Now he's dead, and I was right. Marcus's voice went dead cold. But his death means his accounts are mine, and that includes his wife. The shaking in Elena's hand started all over again. Her entire life story, every single memory Adrian had built for her, was a total sham. Her dad wasn't some accountant who died by accident. He was a damn pillar of their crime empire. Adrian's proposal wasn't a rescue mission, it was a guilt trip. I just want this to be over, she whispered, her voice about to snap. No, you said I could use you, so do it. Tell your rivals I'm here, let them come for me. I am so done. Marcus moved like a blur. 1 second he was by the wall, the next his hand was on her throat. He wasn't choking her, just holding her in place, forcing her to meet his gaze. You don't get a choice in this, he growled, his voice low and dangerous. Your options evaporated the moment you took my brother's name. For better or worse, you are a Varelli. That name is branded on you. You can't erase it. You can't outrun it. The only thing left to decide is if you're going to own it or die fighting it. Elena locked eyes with him, her heart pounding against his hand. Why do you care so much if I accept this? For a beat, Marcus just watched her. His thumb traced her jawline, a shockingly gentle move that totally clashed with his iron grip. Then he let her go, taking a step back. Eat. Get strong. We'll figure out our next move at dawn. He vanished without saying another word, the click of the lock echoing in the dead quiet. Elena stood there, frozen, her hand on her throat where she could still feel his touch. Her mind was a total hurricane, replaying the messed up truths about her father, about Adrian, about the lie that got her trapped here. She thought she'd walked into the Varelli family for salvation, but that was never even an option. It was just a fancy cage. And Marcus, the scarred, terrifying Marcus who saw her as both a pawn and a prize, was the warden holding all the keys. Elena dragged the tray over and made herself eat. This wasn't about food. It was about armoring up for whatever fresh hell was coming next. To survive this brutal new reality, the helpless widow persona had to die. She had to become something else. 3 brutal days crawled by before Marcus came back. 3 days of silent guards bringing food, refusing to make eye contact. 3 days of staring at the walls, checking the locked windows and hearing the muffled sounds of patrols. 3 days of Elena pacing like a trapped animal, planning impossible escapes that all led to the same dead end. She even tried the door on day 2. The guard just silently pushed her back inside. His hand felt heavy on her shoulder. It didn't hurt, but there was no warmth, just a cold, hard reminder that she was property now, not a person. On the morning of the 4th day, the lock clicked open and Marcus walked in. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. He had dark circles under his eyes, a rough beard growing in, and a fresh gash on his forehead. But his suit was immaculate, and he carried himself with total authority. Whatever fight he'd just been in, he definitely won. "Get dressed," he commanded, his voice flat. "Pick something appropriate. You have 10 minutes. Elena got up. "For what?" "Because I said so." "That's not a real answer." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "You want answers? Fine. Adrian's funeral is in 2 hours. You're going. My father wants to see the grieving widow perform at the graveside, so you're going to pick a black dress, keep your mouth shut, and do exactly what I tell you. Got it?" The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Adrian's funeral? Right. Trapped in her own drama, she'd almost forgotten he was dead. Almost forgotten that just 4 days ago she held him as he bled out on a dance floor. A wave of shame washed over her. "I don't have anything to wear," she said, her voice tiny. Marcus just gestured to the wardrobe. "Look again." Elena opened it. Next to Marcus's clothes was now a full collection of women's outfits, mostly black dresses and funeral gear. Somebody had been in her room while she was out cold. The idea made her skin crawl. She grabbed the plainest thing she could find, a black, high-necked dress with long sleeves. It was a dress for fading into the background, for being a nobody. Today was about being a ghost, not the main character. 8 minutes, Marcus's voice cut in. Elena turned. "Can I get some privacy?" "No." "Excuse me? I don't trust you not to pull some stunt. Change here or don't. Your choice." Heat crawled up Elena's neck. "You have got to be kidding me." Marcus just crossed his arms. leaning against the wall like he had all day. 7 minutes. The absolute psycho. Elena snatched the dress and slammed the bathroom door way harder than she meant to. She changed fast, her hands now shaking with rage instead of fear. When she came out, Marcus was in the exact same spot, his expression unreadable. "Shoes are by the door," he said. "Let's go." The shoes were simple black heels that somehow fit perfectly. Elena put them on and followed Marcus out, taking her first real breath of fresh air in 4 days. The hallway was just as sterile and lifeless as she remembered. Beige walls, soulless, expensive art, and a carpet so thick it ate every sound. They passed other closed doors. You could hear muffled voices from some, but nothing clear. The Varelli compound was its own little planet. She'd only seen a tiny part of it on her wedding day. Wedding day. The words tasted like poison now. Marcus led her down a huge staircase to a grand foyer facing a circular drive. A convoy of black cars was already lined up, a prepackaged funeral procession. Men in dark suits were everywhere, but their quiet chatter and cigarettes stopped the instant Marcus appeared. All their eyes snapped to Elena, a mix of curiosity and pure contempt. She just lifted her chin and kept walking. Marcus yanked open the back door of a shiny black sedan with tinted windows. Once she was inside, Elena slid over. Marcus got in after her, leaving a very obvious, very deliberate gap between them. The driver took off without a word, and the car pulled away from the compound. They drove through the city in a thick, tense silence. Elena just stared out the window, watching the city blur by, seeing people on the street living normal lives. Totally clueless that she was trapped in a moving prison, she had a crazy urge to just pound on the glass and scream for help. But what's the point? No one helps women like her. No one's dumb enough to cross the Varellis. "Where's the service?" she asked, mainly to cut through the suffocating quiet. "The family crypt, about 20 minutes outside the city." Marcus didn't even look at her. His eyes were glued to the world outside, his jaw set. "Will there be a lot of people?" "Enough. And if they ask me questions, what am I supposed to say?" "Nothing. You don't talk unless I say you can." Marcus finally turned to her, his dark eyes looking like black ice. "You'll stand where I tell you. You will cry, if you can pull it off, but you will not cause a scene. That's it." "But I'm his wife. They'll expect me to." "They'll expect exactly what I tell them to." His voice got lower, full of quiet menace. "You seem to have forgotten your situation, Elena. Let me spell it out for you. You're not a widow with choices. You're a problem I'm managing until I figure out what to do with you. You're only alive because your death would be more of a hassle than your life. Don't make me reconsider that." A lump formed in Elena's throat. "Are you threatening my life?" "I'm giving you the facts." Marcus turned back to the window. Adrian's death left a power vacuum. Rival families are circling like sharks looking for weakness. My father's getting old, which means holding this empire together is all on me. I don't have time for your drama. You will play your part, and your cell will stay a bedroom, not a grave. The rest of the drive was tense and silent. The family cemetery was on a hill overlooking the city, surrounded by an iron and stone fence. They pulled up to a VIP cemetery, the kind of place where cash buys you a private plot away from the riffraff. The driveway was already jammed with black luxury cars. Marcus, playing the perfect gentleman, got out to open Elena's door. She had to take his hand or cause a scene she couldn't afford. His fingers clamped down on hers, a not-so-subtle reminder of who was in charge. A whole mob of mourners swiveled to watch them walk up. Elena spotted faces from her wedding. Crooked officials and shady partners, guys who were probably thrilled Adrian was dead. The rest were strangers, staring at her like she was a 5-star train wreck. A freshly dug grave gaped open, a dark scar on perfect green lawn. The mahogany coffin, so glossy it was just plain tacky, sat on brass stands. The air was thick with the overpowering stench of white flowers, so sickening it made Elena's stomach flip. Marcus guided her straight to the front, his hand a heavy, possessive weight on her back. In the main chair sat an old man, his silver hair perfectly styled in defiance of the whole grim affair. Elena knew him from pictures. Vincent Varley, the architect of a brutal empire, his pale eyes slid from Marcus to her. "She's here as requested," Marcus announced. Vincent's gaze landed on Elena, stripping her bare. "You're smaller than I imagined." How was she supposed to answer that? Elena kept her mouth shut. "Sit." Vincent pointed to the chair next to him. She did what she was told. Marcus stood right behind her, looking less like a brother-in-law and more like a prison warden. The service began, a priest spouting empty words about comfort, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, the standard script for sanitizing a mob hit. Elena tuned it all out, her eyes glued to the coffin, trying to connect that polished box to Adrian, the man who had promised to keep her safe. She knew tears were expected. It was all part of the performance. It was the widow's job to cry, but her eyes were bone dry. Everything felt hazy, like she was watching some terrible movie that was supposed to be her life. Vincent leaned in, his voice a conspiratorial whisper. "Adrian spoke highly of you." Elena blinked. "Sir?" "My son. He said you had a steel spine, that you'd weathered storms that would have broken other people." Vincent's face was a stone mask. Was he right? I wouldn't know. "You will," he shot back, turning his attention back to the priest. The service ended. Guests shuffled past the casket, offering Vincent their well-rehearsed hollow sympathies. Elena watched these predators in their $1,000 suits, wondering which of them had put a target on Adrian's back. As the coffin began its slow descent, Marcus's hand landed on her shoulder. "Get up!" Elena rose to her feet. The box disappeared into the earth, and she braced for a wave of something, grief, rage, anything. But there was just a profound, chilling void where her heart was supposed to be. A white rose was thrust into her hand. The message was clear: look pure, look sad, keep up the act. Elena dropped it onto the coffin without a second thought and turned her back. The wake, naturally, was at the mansion. The ballroom where Adrian was murdered was now pristine, every last trace of the bloodshed erased. Elena found herself wondering if they torched her blood-soaked wedding dress, or if it was still tucked away somewhere in the house. Marcus was her shadow as people mumbled their fake condolences. Most just ignored Elena, talking directly to Vincent or Marcus like she was part of the decor. The few who dared to meet her eyes gave her cold, dismissive nods. "Mrs. Varley." A man in a sharp gray suit materialized beside her, his smile all sharp angles. "My deepest sympathies for your loss." "Thank you," Elena replied on autopilot. "Robert Chen," he introduced himself. "I was a partner of your husband, a terrible business." "Yes." "You must be absolutely devastated." His eyes called her a liar. "If there's anything I can do—" Before she could respond, Marcus was there. "Mr. Chen, I don't see your name on the guest list. The temperature around them dropped 10 degrees. Chen's slick smile never wavered. I came to pay my respects. How thoughtful. Marcus's hand shot out, landing on Elena's waist in a blatant show of ownership. But my sister-in-law is beside herself, I'm sure you get it. Of course. Chen's eyes darted between them, the gears in his head visibly turning. We'll talk again, Mrs. Barley. He vanished back into the crowd. Who is that? Elena demanded. Someone who wants what isn't his, Marcus bit out, steering her away. Don't ever speak to him again. I wasn't planning to. Your plans are irrelevant. Stay the hell away from him. Marcus's jaw was tight, his hand still gripping her waist. In fact, you won't be talking to anyone without me present. And for how long? For as long as it takes, until I say so. Elena wrenched herself from his grasp. I am not some piece of property you can control. No, you're a widow at a mob funeral, which makes you a target for every vulture in this room looking for an in. Marcus snatched her wrist before she could back away. I get that you're pissed. I know fighting me makes you feel like you have some control. But I'm the only thing standing between you and 100 different ways to die. So you're going to swallow your pride, stick by my side, and not get us both killed. His grip wasn't meant to hurt, but it was unbreakable. Elena looked into his eyes and saw a flicker of something behind the icy mask. Maybe it was genuine concern, or maybe just cold strategy. With a guy like Marcus, you could never tell. Fine, she choked out. He released her wrist, but didn't move an inch away. 2 more hours, then this whole damn show is over. Time crawled by. Elena was stuck to Marcus's side, a silent prop and a long line of fake mourners. She played the part of the heartbroken widow with a sad smile and rehearsed nods. All the while, she observed. She saw Marcus sizing up every person who approached, saw his body tense whenever someone got too close. She watched Vincent hold court, accepting condolences like a king receiving tribute. She saw the guards at every exit, their hands resting near their weapons. This wasn't a wake, it was a war council disguised in funeral attire. By the time Marcus finally escorted her to the car, Elena's face hurt from faking sorrow and her feet were killing her. The second the door slammed shut, she kicked off her heels and shut her eyes. You played your role well, Marcus commented as the mansion shrank behind them. Elena's eyes flew open. He was watching her. I just stood still. It's not that hard. You'd be surprised how many people can't even manage that. He loosened his tie, the first relaxed gesture he'd made all day. My father was impressed. Am I supposed to be flattered? You're supposed to be on your guard. Marcus leaned back into the leather. Vincent is not a man who's easily impressed. The fact that he even spoke to you means something. He asked if Adrian was right about me. What was that about? Marcus was silent for a long moment. Adrian believed you could survive in this world, that you had a hidden toughness. My father wanted to see it for himself. And what did he see? He saw someone who didn't crack under pressure, someone who could handle our world. Marcus's eyes locked with hers. Whether that ends up being a good thing or a bad thing is still up in the air. A heavy silence filled the car. Elena watched the city lights smear across the window, her mind reeling from the day's insanity. The service, the wake, the circling sharks with their phony smiles and very real menace. She had survived the day, but just barely. How many more days like this could she possibly take? Back at the estate, Marcus walked her to her room, her gilded cage, and she heard the lock click behind them. Elena froze, expecting him to shove her inside and leave, but he followed her in, closing the door firmly. Her heart began to race. "What are you doing? We need to talk." Marcus strode to the window, checked the lock, then did a quick sweep of the room as if checking for listening devices. "Sit down. I've been sitting all day long." "Elena." Her name was a sharp command. "Sit." The order was quiet but absolute. She obeyed, perching on the edge of the bed and twisting her fingers. Marcus paced the room like a caged animal, a darkness on his face she'd never seen. "The wedding," he began, then cut himself off. "It wasn't a random attack. You said it was rivals." "It was," he confirmed, "but they had inside help. They knew the schedule, the security layout, where Adrian would be standing at that exact moment." His hands balled into fists. The hit was too clean. A cold dread washed over Elena. "You're saying there was a traitor?" "Yes." "Who?" "That," he said, spinning to face her, "is what I need you to find out. I need to know everything Adrian ever told you. Every single detail, his books, his friends, his enemies. He was a stranger to me. We were engaged for 2 months, and he was gone for most of it. We never had deep conversations." "Then tell me what you do know," Marcus insisted, grabbing a chair and straddling it to face her. "Start from the beginning." The memory was a fresh wound she didn't want to touch, but his gaze was relentless. "He found me at the diner where I was a waitress. He sat in my section for 3 days before he ever spoke." "And what did he say first?" "He asked if I knew who he was. I told him I didn't. I think that's what got his attention." Elena remembered, the moment still painfully vivid. She'd sensed a profound loneliness in Adrian, something his fancy suits and easy charm couldn't quite cover up. He told her his name and asked for a date. She turned him down, figuring he was just another rich guy looking for a fling. But he showed up the next day with flowers and asked her again. "And you finally said yes." "Not immediately," she corrected him. "But there was a surprising gentleness about him, and he was persistent. He never once made me feel pressured." A lump formed in Elena's throat. "I finally agreed to 1 dinner. That turned into 2. After our 3rd, he told me the truth about his entire life." Marcus's face was unreadable. "And what did you do?" "I tried to walk. I told him I wanted no part of that world." A dry little laugh cracked from Elena's lips. "He promised me he got it, that he was done with this life too. He was all talk about a future totally separate from all this." "And his master plan for that future was legit stuff? Property, tech firms, companies that weren't fronts?" She gestured vaguely. "The criminal enterprise," Marcus stated, his voice a flat line. "Right. And you actually bought it?" "I had to buy it." Elena's eyes drilled into his, brutally honest. "My dad was gone. His killers were looking for me next. I was completely alone. When Adrian offered a marriage for safety, I said yes. The only other offer on the table was a shallow grave." Something shifted in Marcus's eyes. Maybe it was sympathy or just him recognizing pure, trapped desperation when he saw it. Did Adrian ever hint at being pressured? Anyone making moves on him? Elena mentally flipped through their few real conversations. Nope. His work life was a black box. He kept me completely walled off from that. "Okay, the week before the wedding. Anything seem off?" "He was strung out majorly. I just figured it was wedding jitters, but..." A memory flared up. The night before, he showed up at my room, Said he had something critical to tell me. Marcus leaned in, his focus sharpening to a point. And what was that? He never got to say. A call came through and he had to bolt. He swore we'd pick it up right after the ceremony. Her voice faded to a ghost of a sound. We never had that conversation. Marcus bolted to his feet, pacing like a tiger in a cage. Somebody saw that hit coming. They either stayed silent or they warned him, and he was too damn stubborn to listen. Why would he just ignore a threat on his life? To prove his stupid point, Marcus bit out, the words soured by old fights. Adrian honestly believed in second chances, that talking could fix things bullets couldn't. He wanted to flip the whole family business into a legit corporation. That's noble. That's suicide, Marcus shot back, stopping to glare out the window. This world doesn't give trophies for being noble. It respects power, fear, and the guts to do what has to be done. Adrian knew the rules we lived by, but chose to believe there was a better way, and that belief got him a coffin. A heavy silence descended on the room, thick with the grief Marcus was hiding and the fury he wasn't. I only knew him for a minute, Elena said, her voice soft. But he was nothing but good to me. That has to mean something. It means 0 to a dead man. His reflection stared back from the dark window. Kindness is a luxury we can't afford. Then what can you afford? He turned, and the look in his eyes was so savage it sucked the air right out of her. Survival, power, and making damn sure my brother's killers don't have long to celebrate. You're going after all of them. I'm going to burn their world to the ground and salt the earth afterward. His voice was so level it was chilling, turning the threat into a simple statement of fact. Anyone who helped them knew about it or made a dime off Adrian's death. They're all going to meet the same end. Elena should have been horrified by his ice-cold mission. Instead, some dark part of her felt it was right, like a debt being paid in blood. How long is this little war of yours going to take? She asked. However long it takes. Marcus headed for the door. In the meantime, you don't leave this house. You don't get seen, and you stay the hell out of my way. Hold on. Elena got to her feet. You can't seriously just lock me in here? I can. Marcus. He whipped around so fast she flinched. Have you got any clue what they will do if they get their hands on you? The people who ordered the hit on Adrian, the sharks circling his territory, even our own guys who think you're a problem? His voice dropped to a lethal quiet. They will tear you apart for what you know, Elena. They will pass you around like a toy or just kill you to make a statement. You're breathing right now for one reason, because I have you somewhere they can't get to you. So I'm your prisoner for my own protection. That's the deal. That's not living, that's just dying slower. Marcus's jaw locked up. You want to try the faster way? The question hung between them, sharp and ugly. Elena held his gaze, refusing to fold. I want a choice in what happens to me, she said, her voice quiet but solid as steel. For a long, heavy moment, Marcus just stared at her. Then he turned back to the door. You don't get a choice anymore. The sooner you accept that, the easier this whole thing will be. He was gone, and the heavy thud of the lock felt like a cell door slamming shut. Elena stood there, shaking with a rage that had nowhere to go. All day she'd been the perfect grieving bride, standing beside Marcus and Vincent while enemies gave fake condolences. But it wasn't grief choking her, it was this gilded cage, the sick feeling she'd just traded one execution for another, This was not how her story was going to end. She wasn't about to rot in this room while Marcus pulled all the strings. Elena moved to the window, placing her palm on the cool glass. Outside, the property was a black hole of darkness. Freedom was so close, just beyond the sealed window, the patrols, and the man who now held her chain. It wasn't impossible. She just had to figure out how to snatch it. The next morning, a guard brought her breakfast with a newspaper on the tray. Elena nearly shoved it away. Who cares about the outside world now? But desperate for anything, she started to read. The headline turned her blood to ice. 12 dead in Varley wedding attack. Rival family fingered. Below was a shot of the estate swarming with EMTs and squad cars. A smaller photo showed Adrian at some gala, smiling without a care in the world. Elena devoured the article, then read it again. It was a careful mix of rumors and police statements. The investigation was ongoing. No one was in custody. The Varley family wasn't talking. But a single line, tucked away near the end, made her stop breathing. Sources hint the assault was an inside job, raising questions of loyalty within the syndicate. So Marcus's paranoia wasn't just paranoia. There was a rat in their house, and that snake was still out there, a hidden threat that could strike at any time. Elena put the paper down, her eyes fixed on the locked door. Marcus was out hunting monsters while she was being guarded like some priceless vase. But what if she could be more than a thing to be protected? What if she could make herself so indispensable he'd have no choice but to let her out of this cage? The idea was nuts, probably a death wish, but it beat going crazy in here. She began taking notes on everything, guard patterns, the layout of the house pieced together from sounds, bits of conversation from the hall. On her 5th day of captivity, the lock turned in the middle of the afternoon. Elena looked up from a book she wasn't really reading. Marcus was standing in the doorway looking like he'd just fought his way out of hell itself. A dark, ugly blood stain was spreading across his shirt. His knuckles were raw and split open. A new slice marked his collarbone, and one of his eyes was already swelling shut. He stumbled forward, kicking the door closed behind him. "Oh my God," Elena whispered. "What happened to you?" "Nothing," Marcus growled. He made it 3 steps before his legs gave out and he slammed into the dresser. In a flash, Elena was by his side, grabbing his arm to keep him from collapsing. He needed a hospital. A hospital was not an option. He tried to push her off to get his balance, but just wobbled. "Just give me a second. You need to be stitched up. You're losing way too much blood." "I said I'm fine. You're the exact opposite of fine." Elena yanked a clean shirt out of a drawer and shoved it against the cut on his collarbone. "Hold that." Marcus did as he was told, his fingers grazing hers as she moved. His skin was hot with fever. How much blood was he down? "Where is the first aid kit?" Elena asked. "Bathroom, cabinet under the sink." She found it instantly. It was stocked like this room was used as a private ER pretty often. When she returned with the kit, she found Marcus sprawled on the bed, eyes squeezed shut. "Stay awake," she ordered. "Working on it." Elena knelt down, gently peeling back the shirt, which was now soaked solid with dark red. The cut was deep and clean, definitely from a knife. He really needed a surgeon, but she could close the wound and try to stop an infection. "This is gonna hurt," she warned him. "What part of this doesn't?" Marcus managed to open one eye to watch her. "Just do it." With the surprisingly steady hand, she started cleaning the wound, not flinching when he sucked in a sharp breath of pain. The muscle under her fingers felt like stone. His whole body was just one big, tight knot of agony. "This needs a professional," she said quietly. "Can't risk it. Too public." His breathing was getting thin. Hospitals bring cops. Cops bring questions. You could die from an infection. Not the first time I've rolled the dice. Elena started stitching, her hands working with the skill her mind had forgotten. It was something her father taught her, a dark talent from a past she tried to bury. Some lessons apparently you never really lose. "Tell me who did this." Her voice was clinical, a distraction to keep him conscious. The same people who got Adrian. Marcus's voice was heavy with pain. "I found their little clubhouse. They weren't happy to see me. How many of them were there? 5. Now there are 4. So you handled them?" "Mostly." Elena tied off the final stitch and moved to his scraped knuckles. "You're completely insane. Possibly." He just watched her, his face a stone-cold, unreadable mask. "You have the hands of a surgeon. My dad taught me. He always said that in his world, knowing how to patch a man up was a priceless skill." Elena's fingers paused on his skin. "It only hit me yesterday that his world and your world are the same thing. Would it have changed anything?" She hit him with the blunt truth. "No, I would have still gone with Adrian. I would have still picked the safety he represented. I knew there was a price. I just never imagined that price would be his life." After cleaning his hands, Elena stepped back. "Take your shirt off," she ordered. Marcus just shot her an arched eyebrow. "You're bleeding like crazy, and I need to check you for other wounds," she said, her voice totally flat. "Either you cooperate or I'll just let you bleed out." He wrestled himself out of the shredded shirt, every single move a showcase of contained agony. Elena had to turn away from the absolute roadmap of scars covering his chest. Some were old and faded, others were viciously new. It was a whole history of violence carved into his skin. She found 2 more cuts, both minor, and patched them up with ice-cold precision. As her adrenaline dipped, her hands started to tremble. The moment she was done, his hand clamped around her wrist. "I appreciate it." Elena met his stare. "You would have been fine without me." "True, but it would have been a hell of a lot more painful." They stayed frozen like that for a long second, his hand like a brand on her flesh, his blood smearing her wrist. The room felt like it was closing in, the air getting heavy. Then Marcus let her go, forcing himself to his feet. He made it up, but he was unsteady. "You have to rest," Elena told him. "Absolutely not. I have business to take care of. You can barely stand. I've worked in far worse condition," but he didn't head for the door. He just stood there, staring at her with that same cryptic expression from the funeral. "What?" Elena finally snapped. "You could have just let me die. It would have fixed your problem." That thought hadn't even crossed her mind. "What problem?" "Me. I'm the one keeping you here. If I was out of the picture, you could bargain your way to freedom with Vincent or someone else." Elena stood up to him in the cramped room. "You think I would watch you die for a shot at freedom?" "Most people would. I'm not most people." A tiny crack appeared in his ironclad exterior. "No, you're not." He walked out without another word, leaving Elena alone with his blood on her hands and a storm of questions. Why show up at her room in that state? He has medics. He has a whole crew, but he chose to bleed in her cage. And why did some small part of her feel a wave of relief that she was there to help? Elena washed her hands like the water could ever erase the answer. For 3 days, Marcus was a ghost. Elena's entire world was reduced to meal trays showing up, the sun crawling across the floor, and the sounds of strange footsteps outside. She called it boredom, just a way to kill the crushing monotony. But every time that lock turned, her pulse went crazy with a feeling that was way too close to anticipation. On the third night, a brutal crash of glass ripped her out of a light sleep. Elena shot straight up in bed, her heart pounding like a drum. The noise came from the gardens. She slid to the wall, listening. Sharp, angry voices. And then the gunshot started. Short, nasty bursts that tore the night apart. She'd been around guns enough to know this wasn't some drill. This was a full-blown assault. The bitter, metallic smell of gunpowder was already seeping through the window. Her door burst open. A guy in tactical gear she didn't know grabbed her arm. "Let's go! Move it! What's happening? Move!" He hauled her out of the bed, not giving a damn that she was only in a t-shirt and underwear. His fingers dug into her arm as he threw her into the chaos of the hallway. More armed men were sprinting by. Orders were being screamed from downstairs. The cold marble floor was torture on Elena's bare feet as she was dragged down a different hall, deep into the heart of the state. They finally stopped at a reinforced steel door straight out of a bank vault. The guard keyed in a code and shoved her through. "Stay here. Don't open this for anyone but me or Marcus Farley. You get me." Elena gave a quick, silent nod. The door slammed shut, the heavy bolt shooting into place with a sound that made her sick. She was in a panic room. It was bare and had no windows, with a single light bulb throwing spooky shadows. Inside was a cot, a small supply table, and a phone on the wall. Elena grabbed the phone, and just as she thought, the line was dead. Another round of gunfire erupted, much closer this time. She could feel the vibrations through the thick walls, the pop of rifles, the boom of shotguns, and the enraged yells of men. The whole compound had turned into a war zone, and she was trapped in a steel tomb, totally blind to who was winning. Time warped, stretching out and snapping back. The noise of the battle hit a crazy peak and then slowly faded. A disturbing quiet settled in, with only the sound of her own breathing. Elena sat on the cot and waited. What felt like an eternity later, the locks finally turned. The heavy door swung open to reveal Marcus, his shirt ripped and spattered with blood, a rifle in his hand. "You're not hurt," he said. It wasn't a question. Elena stood up. "What happened?" Chen made his move. Marcus's voice was completely drained of energy. He was betting on us being in chaos after Adrian died. "He sent a whole army to take the house. Did they do it? They're all dead." He stepped out of the doorway. "Let's go. This area is clear, but I want you in my line of sight." Elena trailed him through hallways, where a path had been made through the bodies. Chen's crew, she figured, their blood soaking into insanely expensive rugs. She stepped right over them, her brain just shutting down to cope with the carnage. Marcus led her to a different room, way fancier than hers. It was an office with a huge desk, walls lined with books and leather armchairs. A wall of bulletproof glass looked out on the grounds where fires were still burning. "Whose office is this?" Elena asked. "Mine." Marcus locked the door and set his rifle down. "Sit, before you fall over." She hadn't even realized her whole body was shaking. Elena just collapsed into a leather chair as her legs gave out. "What were our losses?" "He lost 12. We lost 3. Marcus went over to a bar and poured 2 glasses of liquor. He shoved one into Elena's hand. "Drink this." She took a sip, and the whiskey burned a warm trail through her. "So is it over for tonight?" Marcus downed his drink in one gulp and poured another. Chen is dead. I put the bullet in his head myself. But he's not going to be the last one. Adrian's death created a power vacuum, and now the entire world knows it. How long can you keep fighting a war like this? As long as it takes. But his voice had a deep primal exhaustion that had nothing to do with tonight's fight. He stood by the window, watching the fires, his body a rigid line of pure tension. Elena watched him in the dim light. His face was a mess of soot and blood. His knuckles were raw and he was favoring his side, pushing the stitches she'd put in to their limit. "You need a doctor," she told him. "Later. Marcus, you need—" "Later." He turned away from the window, and the expression he gave her completely stole her voice. It wasn't anger. It was the look of a man staring right off a cliff. "I need to think. I need to figure out who's coming for us next. How to lock this place down. Where the next attack will land. You need to sleep. I'll rest when I'm dead." A brittle, sharp laugh escaped him, the sound of a man hitting his absolute limit. Elena put her glass down. "Sit. Just sit down." She used the same bossy tone he'd used on her 100 times and was shocked when he actually listened, slumping into the chair across from her like his strings were cut. Up close, she could see the brutal toll the last week had taken. The dark circles under his eyes were like bruises. His face looked sharper, worn down by a total lack of sleep. He was running on nothing but pure adrenaline and rage. "When was the last time you ate?" Elena's question was barely a whisper. Marcus looked like he was trying to remember. "Yesterday, I think." "Sleep?" "A couple of hours on and off. You can't keep going like this. I don't have another option." His voice was a raw, broken thing. "Every single moment I'm not working is a moment our enemies are planning their next move. Every second of rest is basically an invitation to get hit. And if you burn out completely, what happens to all of us? Who keeps this whole world from collapsing?" Marcus dragged his hands down his tired face. "You don't understand how any of this actually works. Then make me understand." He held her gaze, and in that long second, she saw something in his eyes harden. A decision was made. This family is held up by fear and respect in equal measure. My father took 40 years to build it. Adrian was supposed to be the clean, respectable face, the one who made us look legit while I handled all the dirty work. His death created a massive power vacuum. Every rival crew, every ambitious underboss, every punk with a gun can smell the blood in the water. Now you have to project the power to fill that gap. And I have to be so feared that no one even dreams of making a move. Marcus sank further into the chair. "It means I can't show a single sign of weakness. I have to become the monster they whisper stories about." Elena pictured the bodies in the hall, the blood on his hands, the ice in his voice when he talked about killing Chen. "You're not a monster. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I know that when you were bleeding to death, you came to me, not to your soldiers." She went right for the throat, pointing out he'd had every chance to kill her but didn't. She saw a dude totally running on empty, trying to glue a shattered kingdom back together while grieving. Then she dropped the hammer. "That's not what monsters do." Marcus let out a bitter laugh, but she met it head on. "I'm a realist. Monsters don't have a conscience. You do." He dared her to prove it, so she laid it all out. His burnout, how he was wrecking himself to be their shield, his internal war over seeing her as a human or a pawn. She closed in, insisting a true monster would feel absolutely nothing while the room's tension skyrocketed. And for the first time, Marcus saw her as something more than just a piece in his bloody game. He whispered that his brother Adrian was right about her inner strength. Elena shot back, "It was mandatory. Where I'm from, the weak get eaten alive too." His question about her past was a total shock. Nobody, not even Adrian, had ever cared enough to ask. They were all too busy trying to use her or lock her up to wonder who she was before the Varelli brand was slapped on her. "Poor," she stated, her voice dead flat. "My father worked himself into an early grave just to put a roof over our heads. After her mom passed, it was just the two of them against the world. Her dad taught her the hard lessons: how to throw a punch, how to spot danger, how to patch up a wound, how to disappear. She thought he was just paranoid, but he was really just prepping her for the brutal world he'd tried to run from." "Do you hate him for it?" Marcus asked. Elena considered it. "Some days, yeah, but the hole he left is way bigger. He was a broken guy who cashed in his own life with the Varellis to buy her a future. He did what was necessary for her to survive." She paused, then delivered the final blow. "Just like you're doing right now." Marcus recoiled like she'd just physically hit him. He claimed it was different, but she cut him off. He was also torching his humanity for his family. She cornered him. How is it any different? He argued this life was his choice, not a fate pushed on her and Adrian. She waved it off. "Was it really? He was born into this, same as you." A hurricane of pain, fury, and regret twisted Marcus's expression. Then she dropped another secret. Adrian once told her he wished he could be anyone else, a man who did more than rule an empire built on fear. "When did he say that?" Marcus shot back. "Our second dinner," she replied. "The wine got him talking." The memory was a fresh wound. He'd said the only perk of being a Varelli was having the power to actually do some good, to maybe wash some of the blood off their family name. Marcus bolted to his feet, pacing like a trapped wolf. He was a dreamer. That's what got him killed. Elena fired back. Or a traitor killed him, and his dreams were irrelevant. But Marcus was dug in, convinced his brother's idealism made him soft, made him trust the wrong snakes and ignore the danger until it was too late. Marcus stared at his own ghost in the dark window. He insisted Adrian's need to find the good in people is what signed his death warrant. "And you see an enemy behind every corner. Because that's where they hide," he snapped back. He ran down his savage resume, surviving 3 turf wars, 2 federal investigations, and countless hits. Adrian's way led to 6 feet under. My way is what keeps our family breathing. It also condemns you to being alone, exhausted, and one bad day from complete collapse, she countered. That was the last straw. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, hauling her up from the chair. Elena didn't even flinch, just stared back at his bruising grip and raw fury. "You want the truth." His voice was a frayed live wire. "I am one bad day from burning this whole kingdom to the ground. I'm one weak moment from checking out myself because this weight is too damn heavy." He was hanging on by a single thread, and the only thing stopping him was knowing everyone else would fall with him. "Then let me help you carry it." "There's no one," he bit out. "I'm here." The words just came out, totally unplanned. "I'm not asking for your trust, but you don't have to do this by yourself." Marcus just stared, his hands still clamped on her shoulders, his breathing ragged. "Why would you help me? I've imprisoned you, treated you like property, and gave you every single reason to want me dead." "Because," she whispered, "you've also been my protector. I saw you mourning your brother when you pretended to feel nothing. I've seen the agony you hide behind all that armor. Elena's fingers gently grazed the scar on his jaw, because I know exactly what it feels like to be drowning. For a split second, Marcus froze, her touch a spark on his skin, his eyes searching hers for the usual deception. Then something inside him finally gave way. His kiss wasn't soft. It was a brutal, frantic crash of mouths. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her close like he was terrified she'd dissolve into thin air. Elena should have fought back, should have been repulsed, but instead, she matched his desperate energy with her own. It was a gorgeous, catastrophic, world-ending mistake. This was the brother of her dead husband, her captor, a man covered in blood. But in that instant, those titles meant nothing. She just desperately needed to feel something real to prove she was still alive. Marcus was the one to break away, breathing hard, pressing his forehead against hers. This is so wrong. We can't. I know. But they stayed right there. They stood in the dead, silent office as their entire world went up in flames, and the ground between them cracked and shifted forever. I never hated you, Marcus breathed out. At the wedding, you were sure I despised you. I didn't. Elena's heart pounded against her ribs like a trapped bird. Then what was it? I wanted you. The confession was raw, torn straight from his soul. I was watching you for weeks before Adrian even knew you existed. I followed you from that diner, telling myself it was just business, but it was always a lie. The admission should have been terrifying. Instead, it made a twisted kind of sense. Why didn't you say anything? Because Adrian saw you first. He claimed you like you were some prize to be won. Marcus's laugh was pure poison. And because I knew if I ever got close to you, I'd have to keep you. In our world, needing someone is a death sentence. So I just gave you to Adrian, acting like it meant nothing. But it did. No, he agrees. I watched him marry you, and all I can think about was killing him, taking his spot at the altar. His grip tightened in her hair. Then someone else did my dirty work, and my darkest fantasy became my worst reality. Elena pulls back, her eyes drilling into his. Is that why you kept me locked up? To keep your distance? To keep you safe? To stop myself from doing exactly this? And to figure out if you were just a passing obsession or something way more dangerous? He releases her, stepping back like a chasm just opened between them. Turns out it's more dangerous. What is? Marcus turns away, his body completely rigid. I'm not built for this, for wanting, for caring. It's a fatal weakness. He explained that love just paints a target on your back. Adrian is dead because an enemy knew losing him would destroy Marcus. If they learned she meant more to him than a pawn, they would come for her. They would make him watch them take her apart, piece by bloody piece, just to show him they could. His voice was thick with a primal, gut-wrenching terror. I will not let that happen to you. His confession was a tidal wave in her head, and she was totally submerged in it. So Marcus wanted her, watched her, then locked her up, all as some sick kind of protection. And that kiss was from a man dying of thirst. So what now? She asks, her voice barely a sound. Nothing. This moment is over. The cold, emotionless mask slid right back into place. You go back to your room, I go back to my work. We act like this never happened. Just like that. Yes, just like that. A sharp, bitter laugh escaped Elena's lips. Do you really believe you can just wish this away? Pretend it's not happening? I've been pretending since the moment I first saw you, he replied, his tone final. I can keep it up. He strode to the door. Come on, I'm taking you back. But Elena didn't budge. And what if I'm done pretending? Marcus's hand froze on the doorknob. Pretend what? That your kiss meant nothing. That you're not the only person who's actually seen me in months? Don't make this any harder than it needs to be, he said, avoiding her gaze. You think this is what you want, but you are so wrong. I am not Adrian. I don't have his kindness. I am the monster that hunts the other monsters, and getting close to me will destroy you. I'm already destroyed, she answered. Your brother died in my arms. I'm a prisoner in this house. My old life is gone. What else could you possibly take from me? Your hope. Marcus finally turned to face her, the agony in his eyes like a physical blow. That's what I'll take. The part of you that still believes things can get better. I will crush it, poison it, until you're just as broken and empty as I am. And you will hate me for it. You can't know that for sure. Oh, but I can. It's what I do. It is the law of this world. He ripped the door open. Now let's go before I have second thoughts. Elena walked to the door but paused. You're wrong. About what? About you being a monster. Real monsters don't try to save people from themselves. And just like that, she was gone, leaving him speechless in the hallway. Marcus trailed her, the air between them practically buzzing with leftover drama. He got her door open, but then just froze, a guard completely stunned. You need to rest, she tells him softly. I will, he replies. But her thanking him for the protection totally blindsided him. Bro was not ready for that. He was prepped for her to be furious, not grateful. He tries to brush it off as just his duty. She immediately shuts that down, saying this was way more than just loyalty. You made the call to keep me breathing, she stated, locking eyes with him, and for that I'm grateful. He just gives a quick, sharp nod before the door closes between them. That click of the lock usually meant loneliness, but this time felt different. Her fancy prison cells suddenly felt way bigger. The quiet wasn't so heavy, all because of one new fact. She wasn't the only one stuck here. Marcus was also a prisoner, chained to a family that bled him dry and gave him nothing back. On the bed, she could still imagine his kiss, his words on repeat, the terror she should have felt about his dark side, his obsession. It just wasn't there. Instead, a weird, electric hope sparked for whatever was coming. But the next morning hit like a ton of bricks. A new guard, not the usual one with the food tray, shows up with a direct summons. Mr. Vincent Varley wants a word in his study. Ice flooded Elena's veins. Like, right now? Yup, right now. She threw on her plainest dress and went with him. It was her first look at the attack's aftermath in the daytime. The walls were chewed up with bullet holes. You could still see faint red smears on the floors, even after a deep clean. The Varley Empire's shiny armor was definitely starting to crack. Vincent's office was in the oldest wing, all dark wood and the smell of dusty books and old cigars. The old man sat behind a huge desk like a king on a throne, with Marcus standing next to him like a bodyguard made of granite. Marcus didn't even look at her. His face was a total blank, which made Elena's tiny bit of hope just die. The act was back on. Sit down, Elena. Vincent's voice was a low rumble, but not mean. She sat, squeezing her hands so they wouldn't shake. Vincent just stared at her for a long time, his eyes crazy sharp. My son says you kept your cool last night. You listened and didn't freak out. I was terrified, Elena confessed. But you didn't let her run you. That's what matters. He leaned back in his big leather chair. You've been here almost 2 weeks. Plenty of time to see how things work. Plenty of time to decide. Decide what? Whether you're useful to this family or a problem we need to get rid of. Vincent said it so casually, like he was talking about dinner plans, not her life. Marcus thinks you're an asset, that your tie to Adrian is a good thing. Others think you're a liability who'll sink us all. Elena's throat went dry. And what do you think? I think you're way smarter than you act. I think you've been watching, figuring out how to survive in a place that should have chewed you up and spit you out already. Vincent slid a folder across the desk. Which is why you get to make the choice. Elena's hand shook as she opened it. It was crammed with legal papers and money stuff, a language she didn't get. Adrian left you everything, Vincent laid it all out. His company shares, his houses, his whole fortune. On paper, you're now one of the richest women in the country. Elena's head shot up. I don't get it. It's easy. You can grab the cash and vanish. We'll set you up with a new identity, a safe house, and you'll never see us again. Vincent's face gave nothing away. Or you stay. Take the inheritance, take your spot in the family, and help us fix the mess Adrian's death left behind. Why would you want me to stay? Because you're still Adrian's wife. That name means something to the old school families, our partners. They get mourning, they get marriage, even after someone's gone. Vincent's eyes flicked over to Marcus, then back to her. And because my son is positive you can play the heartbroken widow role to perfection. Elena's heart was trying to punch its way out of her chest. Marcus was a total statue, jaw clenched. Was this his idea or his dad's? If I stay, Elena asked, picking her words like they were landmines, what's my job? You become part of the machine, the family business. You'll learn the business, be a public face, and handle the legit side of our operations. It means you're not our prisoner anymore. You're a player. Vincent's look got dead serious. But it also means you're ours, for life. No changing your mind, no bailing when it gets bloody. Once you're in, you're in. There's no way out. Elena stared at the papers. Her ticket to freedom was right there. Money, a new life, away from all this chaos. But free to do what? Spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder? She had no one and nothing out there. Adrian's name was the only thing keeping her alive. And some wild part of her didn't want to run, didn't want to break that insane, burning connection she had with Marcus. She wasn't about to leave the first place she'd ever felt powerful, instead of like a chess piece. How much time do I have? She asked. 2 hours. Vincent got up, ending the meeting. Choose smart, Elena. There are no do-overs. A guard took her to her room, where Elena just stared at the papers, her brain spinning with 2 completely different futures. She could run, get rich, and disappear into a quiet life. Or she could stick around, snatch a gangster's throne, and tie herself to a dude who knew he was a monster but fought for his brother's honor. Freedom or power, a safe exit or a bloody war. By the time Marcus rolled into her room that night, the choice was already made. He didn't knock, just turned the key like he owned the joint. Elena was on the bed, papers laid out, and just watched him lock them in. The guy looked even more wrecked than last time. His eyes were bloodshot, his whole body screaming with a pain he was trying to hide. He'd changed his clothes, but you could still see a line of dried blood under one nail. What's the call?" he asked, his voice totally dead. Elena just scooped up the documents and held them out. "I'm staying." Marcus stared at the papers like they were about to bite him. "You should get out. Take the cash." "I'm through with running." "I'm staying, Marcus," she said again, her voice turning to steel. "I'm claiming Adrian's inheritance and my seat at the table. I'm not going to be stuffed in a closet like some problem anymore." Marcus ripped the papers from her hand and chucked them on the dresser. "You have no clue what this means, do you? This isn't just a contract you can rip up. You're chaining your life to ours." "I did that the day I married Adrian." Elena got up, staring him right in the eye. "The only difference now is that I'm choosing it. You're choosing to put a massive target on your back, choosing a life where you could get shot in your sleep. I'm choosing armor over being a target." She stepped toward him. "Last night, you asked what else you could take from me. Well, today I'm taking something for me. Control. The power to write my own ending, not let some other man do it." Something changed in his face. Maybe it was respect, or maybe just pure terror for her. "You think this prison gives you more control than freedom? Out there, I'm a target. In here, I'm a Varelli. That name's a weapon, and I'm going to learn how to use it. Or it's the weapon that gets you killed. Everything's a death sentence sooner or later." Elena held his stare. "This way, at least I die fighting, not hiding." Marcus was dead silent, just scanning her face, looking for any doubt. "You're 100% on this? Then it's time to learn the rules." He walked to the window, putting some much-needed space between them. "You're not Adrian's widow anymore. You're an asset. You listen to Vincent, you listen to me, you listen to the family. You follow orders immediately. You never argue in front of anyone. You don't make any family decisions without asking first. And you never, ever betray us, because if you do, I'll kill you myself." That threat should have made her sick with fear. Instead, it was the most real thing he'd said yet. "I get it," Elena said. "You'll have a job in the clean businesses. Adrian was starting a real estate branch. You'll run it, learn the books, learn the properties. You'll keep the perfect image that covers up all the dirt." A tiny smirk appeared on his face. "Exactly. So where do I live?" "You're moving into the main compound. A real room this time, not a prison cell, but you'll have guards. You don't go anywhere without my permission and an escort until this mess is done. So, I'm still a prisoner, just in a nicer cage. Call it protective custody," Marcus snapped, turning back to her. "And one more thing, the kiss, it was a mistake. You said it was complicated." He wiped a hand down his tired face. "I meant what I said. About watching you, wanting you. A feeling like that doesn't just turn off." Elena's heart started going crazy. "What are you trying to say?" "I'm saying we need rules. You're family now. That makes this even more of a disaster. Vincent can't know. No one can. If they get a whiff of anything between us, you become a liability they can use against me. So it didn't happen. We act like there's nothing there." Marcus's gaze was practically burning a hole through her. "Because there can't be. Not while you're my problem to solve. Not while this whole family is a powder keg. Not while every single enemy is hunting for a crack in our armor." Elena stepped right into his personal space, leaving inches of electric air. "And when it's done, when the sharks are gone, what then?" Marcus's jaw locked up. We'll figure that out if we get there. That's a non-answer. It's the only one I've got. His hand came up, almost touching her, then dropped. I can't promise you a thing except that you'll stay alive. Everything else is up in the air. I'm not asking for promises. Elena shot back, grabbing his hand and pressing it to her cheek, just like before. I'm asking for the truth. Do you even want me here? Marcus sucked in a breath. His thumb traced her jawline, a ghost of a touch. And right there in his eyes, Elena saw the war he was fighting, duty against desire, brains against gut instinct, the killer they molded versus the man he actually was. Yes, he finally breathed out, the words sounding like a confession ripped from his soul. I want you to stay, even when I know it's a terrible idea, even though it's selfish and reckless and will probably get us both wrecked. Elena leaned in and planted a soft kiss on his palm. Then I'm staying. And right then, you see the insane contradiction that is Marcus, because he yanks her into him with a force that just steals her breath, his arms becoming a prison she wants to be in. For one long, nail-biting moment, they just hang there, two people chewed up by the gears of an impossible world, holding on to the only thing that feels real. Then the gears grind again. He pushes back, his face a war zone of conflict. Get your stuff. You move to the new room at sunrise. She asks what he's going to do. I have my job. I'm always on the clock. He heads for the door but stops. Elena, this doesn't change a thing. That line between us is still there. I know. And she did. She saw the shape of their jail cell perfectly. Didn't stop the ache. I'll be ready in the morning. He bounced without a second look, leaving Elena alone in her brand new reality. This room was a major upgrade, 3 times the size of her cell, with windows looking out at the world and a bathroom that wasn't a concrete box. Her few belongings had been moved in, looking tiny and out of place next to all the fancy furniture. Standing in the doorway was Maria, the old woman from the wedding. Miss Elena, I'm Maria. I'm here to assist you. Assist me with what exactly? Whatever you require. Your clothes, your daily plan, helping you learn the rules of the house. Maria's face was sweet, but her eyes were like a hawk's. Mr. Vincent wants you to be comfortable. That word, comfortable, almost made Elena bust out laughing. Comfortable in a place where one faction wanted her unalived and the other saw her as a game piece. I need clothes, she said, shaking off the crazy thought. Things for working, not ball gowns. Of course, a tailor is coming tomorrow, Maria paused. If I can say so, miss, it's good seeing you out of that room. Mr. Adrian would have wanted you to have some freedom. His name hit her like a ton of bricks. She'd been so hyper-focused on surviving Marcus, she'd let the memory of the guy who started this whole mess get fuzzy. You knew him well? Elena asked. I've served this family for 30 years. I watched both the boys grow into their positions. A distant look came over Maria's eyes. Mr. Adrian was the softer of the two. He tried to find the good in people even when it wasn't there. Mr. Marcus was carved from harder material, but his loyalty to his brother was his whole world. He shows it in a weird way. Mr. Marcus can't show his heart. His father taught him that feelings are a fatal flaw. In this world, to feel anything is to be a target. Maria swept back the heavy curtains, letting sunlight flood the room. But I've seen how he watches you. It's the same way he used to look at things he wanted more than anything but believed he could never have. The air just vanished from Elena's lungs. What are you trying to say? Nothing, miss, just an old woman rambling. Maria's smile was full of secrets. Dinner is at 7. You are expected in the great hall. I'll come get you. After she was gone, Elena scoped out her new cage. The wardrobe was a giant, empty space, just begging for a backstory. The bathtub was easily big enough for 2. The bed, a silk-draped altar, was worth more than she'd ever earned. This was the deal now. Insane wealth and constant danger, woven together so tight she couldn't see the seams. Dinner was basically a silent war. The hall, which could seat 30, was set for just 5. Vincent was king at the head of the table, with Marcus on his right and Elena on his left. 2 randos sat across from them. "Elena, this is James Caruso and Michael Romano," Vincent announced. "They manage our finances and our legitimate fronts." The men gave her absolutely nothing, their eyes doing a cold, hard calculation of her value, deciding if she was a threat or a tool. "Gentlemen," Elena murmured. Servants moved like ghosts, putting down the first course without making a sound. The quiet was a heavy weight, broken only by the scrape of silver on china. Finally, Vincent spoke. "Elena has agreed to claim her inheritance by managing Adrian's property portfolio." "Is that smart?" Caruso asked, his voice totally flat but his eyes sharp. "Considering the state of the market?" "It's necessary," Marcus cut in before Vincent could reply. "We need stability in our public-facing businesses. The assets are legally Elena's. Her name on them is better than letting them rot." "And her background in property?" Romano's question was a straight-up challenge. Elena placed her fork down with quiet deliberation. "None. Which is why I will learn. I thought that was the point of accountants and lawyers, to advise those of us who lack your skills." Romano's eyebrows shot up. A real, actual smile flashed across Vincent's face. "She has a point," Vincent remarked. "Adrian knew nothing about real estate when he started. He learned. She'll learn too." "With all due respect, sir, Adrian was family." "She is family now." Marcus's voice, cold enough to drop the room temperature, sliced right through the tension. "She is a Varelli. This conversation is over." Romano slammed his mouth shut, but his bitterness was practically radiating off him. Dinner went on with talk of business Elena didn't get. She just listened, trying to piece together Adrian's world. As the meal wrapped up, Marcus stopped her with a hand on her arm. "My office, 10 minutes. He was gone before she could even respond. Elena found her way to his study, the room where he'd first stolen a kiss, the city lights bleeding through the window just like they had before. The room felt different now, less like an interrogation chamber and more like a command post. Marcus was there, his desk buried in papers, a whiskey in his hand. He didn't bother looking up. "Lock the door," Elena did, and the click of the lock sounded like a judge's gavel. Marcus finally met her eyes. "Caruso and Romano don't trust you. They see a gold digger who trapped Adrian, now trying to sink her claws into the family." "Are they wrong about the trapping part?" "Yes." "And what's your game here?" He brushed off the question. "It doesn't matter. They're going to fight you on everything. They will second-guess every decision. They'll be watching your every move, waiting to set you up to fail so Vincent will get rid of you." "So what's the play?" "Stay a step ahead. Be smarter. Do not let them break you." Marcus took a drink. "And trust no one. Just me and Vincent. Anyone else in this house would sell your life for chump change." Elena walked up to his desk. "Including you." To protect this family, I'd burn you myself without blinking. Their eyes locked. But it would tear a piece out of me if that's any comfort. It's not. No, I didn't think it would be. Marcus slid a thick file across the desk. Adrian's complete portfolio, 12 properties in the city, houses, retail space, a hotel. The whole package is worth around $40 million. He tapped it. Income, costs, tenants, it's all in here. You have 7 days to know it inside and out and give Vincent a new strategy. Her fingers were trembling as she took it. 7 days. This is how we do business. You don't get a second shot. He poured another drink and offered it to her. You'll need this. She took it, dropping into the chair across from him. The whiskeys burn a weak shield against the ice shooting through her veins. A $40 million kingdom had just been dropped in her lap. She had 7 days to get it under control, surrounded by dudes praying she'd crash and burn. And Marcus, his face a total enigma. I don't think I can do this, she confessed. You can, he said instantly, or you would already be dead. He leaned back, solid as a rock. Fear proves you're smart. Anger is a weapon. Use them. Let Caruso and Romano find out what happens when they underestimate you. How? Become more than they can handle. Outthink them. Show them you are not just Adrian's widow. You are a Varelli, and that name has weight. He paused. And find me when you're backed into a corner. I won't help you, but I will give you the cold, hard truth. She stared at the file. It was a death warrant with a 7-day fuse. Prove your worth or get kicked out. She had survived worse. All right, she whispered. I'll do it. I knew you would. For a microsecond, his expression softened. You should go. It's late and your timer has started. Elena stood up but paused. Marcus, thank you. For what? For believing I could, even if you won't say it. A flicker of some deep, buried emotion crossed his face. If I didn't, I'd have told Vincent to just pay you off. Now go, before I change my mind about this whole detached thing. She was through the door before he could see his words land. The next 5 days were a free fall straight into hell. Alana basically forgot what sleep even was. Buried in so many ledgers, the words started looking like alien symbols. Maria brought food she never touched and endless coffee. She chugged on autopilot, ignoring the old woman's worried glares. She figured out Adrian was way smarter than anyone gave him credit for. His properties were in neighborhoods about to blow up. The hotel was a literal gold mine. His businesses were perfectly set up to wash dirty money. But the whole empire was cracking. Tenants in one building were on a rent strike. Another spot had a structural issue that would cost a fortune to fix. While the hotel was bleeding cash from terrible management, Elena was drafting a comeback plan. Her spreadsheets were like a tribute to her dad, forging a brutal strategy from pure financial chaos. On day 6, Marcus just materialized in her room, his sudden appearance feeling like a total invasion. She glanced up from her laptop, her eyes burning from the screen time. He told her she looked like hell. She shot it right back at him. He was running on fumes, every move heavy as he dropped into a chair. He gave her a one-word order. Report! Elena just swiveled the laptop and showed him everything. Marcus sucked in all the data in total silence, his face a perfect poker mask. When she finished, the quiet in the room was so thick you could cut it. Well? Elena finally pushed. He blinked. The apartment building! You're gonna negotiate with the leader, not kick him out. Exactly. Their complaints are solid. We fix the issues and offer fair rent, not Adrian's insane rates. And I stop a rebellion while keeping the building packed. It's an investment to stop lawsuits and empty units. She locked eyes with him. It also makes the family look a little less like a pack of wolves. Marcus chewed on that. A slow grin completely changed his face. Vincent is gonna be blown away. Relief hit her like a tidal wave. For real? No doubt. It's smart. It's practical. It proves you're seeing the whole board. He got to his feet. Present it just like that tomorrow. When Caruso starts screaming about the cost, don't you dare flinch. Hold your ground. Are you going to be there? I'll be in the room, but I'm not stepping in. This win has to be all yours. Marcus headed for the door, but then stopped. Elena, you've completely floored me. I honestly never thought you had this in you. You challenged me to prove I wasn't useless, so I am. You're doing way more than that. His eyes burned into hers. You're claiming this turf as your own, not as a sad widow, not as some scared girl playing dress up. You're turning yourself into a threat, a real one. That word, threat, should have been an insult. Instead, it landed like the highest freaking honor he could ever give her. The meeting the next morning was an absolute slaughter. Caruso ripped into every number she presented. Romano hunted for any tiny flaw in her plan. Vincent was a damn statue, just watching the carnage like it was his own private show. Marcus was just a shadow leaning against the wall. But Elena didn't give a single inch, blocking every shot with ice-cold logic. When Caruso called her weak, she pinned him with a look that could melt steel. Adrian built this for long-term profit. Squeezing tenants is a short game. My way lasts. The room went completely, utterly silent. Vincent's raw laugh just ripped through the silence, a sound that seemed to shock even him. I'll give her this. The woman's got guts. The numbers work, Marcus threw in, his first words of the whole meeting. Her logic is airtight. I say we approve it and give her total control. Caruso started to argue, but one look from Vincent shut him down hard. Done. Elena, I want reports every week. Big moves still need my signature, or Marcus's, but the day-to-day is all you. Under the table, her hands were trembling, but her voice was pure steel. Thank you. The meeting was over. As they all left, her eyes met Marcus's. The pride just radiating off him was so strong, it was almost a physical thing. She'd actually done it. She had smashed their expectations to pieces and carved out a spot for herself. Now for the hard part, keeping it. For the next 2 weeks, the work was an absolute grind. Elena met with managers, walked the properties, and even sat in on tenant meetings. The ringleader, Sarah, was just a tired but tough lady protecting her people. Elena listened, and they cut a deal. The hotel was a whole other monster. The manager was skimming, and he had ties to a rival gang. Elena brought her evidence to Marcus, who dealt with it. The manager vanished. A new one appeared. Profits went up. A new rumor started going around. Adrian's widow was no puppet. She was a goddamn player. This should have made life easier, but it just made things way more complicated. Marcus started pulling back. Their talks turned cold and clinical, just briefings and signatures. He'd avoid eye contact, making up excuses so they wouldn't be alone together. Elena tried to tell herself it was for security. That logic didn't stop the sting. The ice wall he was building felt like a straight-up betrayal after the bond they'd started to form. 3 weeks after her big win, a car slid to a halt next to her as she was leaving the hotel. The window slid down, and a stranger's face appeared. "Mrs. Varley, my boss wants a word with you." Her bodyguards immediately swarmed the car, hands going to their guns. The guy just smiled. "No need for that. This is a friendly chat. My employer has info about the hit on your wedding day. We figured you might be interested." Elena's heart started hammering. "Tell your employer to go through the right people." "The right people are compromised. That's part of the info." He held a business card through the window. "Tomorrow night, the location's on the card. Come alone if you want to know who really killed Adrian." The car peeled out before she could even respond. Her head of security grabbed the card. "We need to tell Mr. Marcus about this right now," but Elena's head was spinning. Intel on Adrian's killer, on the traitor in their family. It was either a perfectly laid trap or the break they desperately needed. She took the card from his hand. "Let me think about it." That night, Marcus blew into her room without knocking. "What the hell were you thinking?" He slammed a file down on her desk. "The security report. Some clown dangles intel on a street corner and you don't think to mention it." Elena stood up, her own anger flaring up. "I was going to." "When?" "After you walked into this little secret meeting by yourself and caught a bullet in the brain." "I'm not dumb enough to go alone." "But you're dumb enough to consider it." He was angrier than she'd ever seen him. "This is exactly what I warned you about. They dangle the one thing you want, answers, and you're ready to march right into a cage. Or it's legit, someone who actually knows who sold us out." Elena snatched the card off the desk. "You've got nothing for weeks. This could be it." "It's not a lead, it's bait." Marcus ripped the card from her hand. "And you're not taking it. You don't have the power to order me around. If there are answers about Adrian, I'm gonna be the one to get them, not you." His jaw was set like concrete. "You will not risk your neck on some stranger's empty promise." "And why the hell not? It's what you do for a living." "That's different." "How?" Elena stepped right up to him, her own fury boiling over. "Because you're the hardened killer, the muscle, and I'm just the widow who signs the checks. Because my life is worth less." The words tore out of him, so raw they seemed to shake the whole room. "My death means nothing. The business moves on. Vincent finds a replacement. The world doesn't stop. But if you died," he choked on the thought, his breath catching. "If I die, what happens?" Elena demanded. "The assets get moved. The family finds a new puppet. So tell me, Marcus." "If you die," he whispered, "my world ends." That confession took something out of him. "And that's exactly why you can't go. My job is protection, not leading a suicide mission. That just gets us both put at the ground." All the fight just left Elena. "I was wrong. I should have told you immediately." Marcus slumped against the wall. "You need answers about Adrian. I get it, but this ain't it." "Then what is?" "Let me run this. I'll have the place checked for traps. If it's clean, we'll set up a secure meet." He finally looked at her, and the bone-deep exhaustion in his eyes hit her like a punch to the gut. "Just promise me you won't pull any crazy stunts." "I promise." Marcus nodded and turned to leave. "Wait," Elena said. "You've been totally icing me out." His hand froze on the doorknob. "The workload has been insane." "You've been avoiding me," she pushed back. "Ever since the presentation. Did I do something wrong?" "You did everything perfectly, that's the problem." Marcus faced her again. "You were supposed to be a liability to be contained, a problem to solve. Instead, You've become essential to the whole operation, which just paints a bigger bullseye on your back. So this is your master plan? Pretend I don't exist? He's trying to play it cool, but his eyes are screaming a different story, a raw need that she feels in her own soul. So she steps right up to him. And what if I'm tired of playing it safe, Elena? What if the only thing I want is the one thing that will absolutely destroy us? His whole act is cracking. You can see it in his clenched jaw, in his hands turning to stone at his sides. You don't get what you're asking for. Oh, believe me, I do. I'm asking for what's real. For you to finally see I'm not some breakable doll. And then his mouth is on hers. This wasn't like last time. This wasn't a storm, it was a hostile takeover. He grabbed her face, his thumb brushing her cheek right before his lips crashed down on hers with absolute certainty. Elena just melted into him, her hands grabbing his shirt, yanking him even closer. This was the connection she'd been desperate for, the silent vow that she wasn't going through this nightmare by herself. Marcus pulled back, their foreheads touching. This is a monumentally bad idea. A total disaster, Elena whispered. We can't. Marcus, we seriously can't. He said her name, like a prayer, a defeat, a final plea. She dragged him back in, and the next kiss was pure electricity. Then a sharp knock on the door shattered everything. Marcus shot back, his face instantly locking into that cold, defensive armor he always wore. Fixing his shirt, he walked over to the window like he was just admiring the view. Come in, Elena barely choked out, her voice a wreck. Maria came in holding a dinner tray. Your supper, miss. I figured you'd prefer it in here after such a tough day. Thanks, Maria. The maid put the tray down, her eyes darting between them with a look that knew everything. Will you be staying, Mr. Marcus? No, I was just heading out. He refused to even look at her. We'll sort out the security detail in the morning. And then he was gone, leaving Elena wanting to hurl something at the door he'd just closed. Maria started arranging the food on a small table. He's fighting this with every ounce of his soul, you know? Elena froze solid. I have no clue what you're talking about. No, I'm sure you don't. Maria's smile was surprisingly kind. But if you did, you might notice that Mr. Marcus has never looked at anyone the way he looks at you. Not once in all my years here. I'm an old woman. I notice things. I also know when to shut my mouth. She glided over to the door. Just be smart, miss. Around here, every look is recorded, and not all of them are friendly. She could still feel the ghost of his kiss burning on her lips. Her head was a tornado of things they should have said. It was completely off limits, a screw-up that could get them killed, the kind of romance that ends with a body bag in their line of work. But it was also the realest thing she'd ever felt. That spark between them was the only truth in a life made of lies and schemes. Elena just pushed food around her plate, wondering how you survive wanting the one thing you can never, ever have. The next day, a team Marcus sent checked the address from the card. It was a slick corporate tower downtown, not the busted warehouse they expected for a trap. The company listed was a security firm with a squeaky clean record. It could still be a front, Marcus said during the briefing, but way more professional than what we're used to. So, what's the plan? Elena asked. Vincent looked up. We proceed, but we're on high alert. Marcus is going, backed by a full team. You're staying here, but they asked for me specifically. And that's exactly why you're not going anywhere. Vincent's voice was pure steel. If their information is good, they don't need you there. And if it's a trap, we're not about to serve them their #1 target on a silver platter. Elena wanted to argue, but his logic was airtight. Fine, but I want a full debrief the second you're back. You'll get it, Marcus promised. That night, Elena paced her room like a caged animal while Marcus was out. Her mind raced through a dozen horrific possibilities. A setup, a hit, a betrayal. Every noise in the hallway made her jump. He didn't return until way past midnight. He found her wide awake, still dressed, sleep being a total fantasy. Well, she demanded. Marcus poured a drink before he spoke. It was legit, sort of. Explain, the intel is from a splinter faction from inside our own crew. Guys who were loyal to Adrian and who hate the new management since he died. They want to take over. Nope. They're selling intel for the right price. Marcus took a long sip. They gave up the traitor, the one who told Chen's crew about the wedding. Who was it? Michael Romano, the family's lawyer, the same guy who grilled her at her first family dinner. It wasn't a shock. It just felt like it was always him. Why would he do it? She asked. Greed. Adrian was about to completely change how the family handled its legal stuff, which would have made Romano useless. So he ran to Chen, offering to help take out Adrian for a new job. Marcus's expression was pure, cold fury. Now Chen's dead, but Romano is still in our house, selling secrets to the highest bidder. What's the plan? To do what's necessary. Marcus set his glass down. There's one more thing. This group, Adrian's old crew, they want something for the information. And what's that? Marcus looked her dead in the eye. They want you to have real authority in this family. For Vincent to publicly name you Adrian's heir for more than just his cash. They think the family is lost without Adrian, and they believe you're the one to lead it. Elena dropped into a chair. They know absolutely nothing about me. They know you're a sharp judge of character. They know you made a deal with that tenant leader instead of just rolling over her. They see you running legit businesses the right way. Marcus moved closer. They think you can steer this family to a future that isn't soaked in blood. That's insane. I have zero power here. You have more than you realize. You have Vincent's respect, and you have mine. Even Caruso will tell you that you're competent. Marcus knelt in front of her. This faction is offering you an alliance, an army from our own side. In return, they want you to push for a new direction toward legitimate work and away from the old ways. What am I supposed to do? She whispered. He warned her. You have to play this perfectly. This is either your ticket to the throne or a very clever trap. His hand covered hers. But if this is what you want, real influence beyond just money, this is your only move. You gather your allies. You make yourself so vital that they can't function without you. The sheer scale of it all hit Elena like a truck. Romano gets dealt with tomorrow night. Vincent wants it to be a public spectacle, a clear warning to any other rats. Marcus's voice was completely dead inside. You don't have to be there. I have to. He pulled his hand away. To have any real power in this world, Elena said, I need to understand every part of it, especially the darkest corners. She met his stare. I have to see what they call justice here. For a long second, Marcus just looked at her face. You might not like what you find. I'm pretty sure I won't, she shot back, but I have to see it anyway. The next night, the family met in a hidden room on the estate. Not the main hall or Vincent's office, but a place Elena never knew existed. It had no windows, was totally soundproof, and had a single chair bolted to the floor. 2 guards dragged Romano in. He was trying to play it cool, but Elena saw the raw fear in his eyes the second he saw Vincent waiting. "Michael." Vincent's voice was chillingly quiet. "You served us for 12 years. You handled our legal work with real talent and focus. I trusted you. Sir, I don't know what you've heard. Stop." The calm was gone. "We have signed statements from 4 separate sources. We have the bank records of Chen's payments. We have call logs, text messages. We have everything." The color drained from Romano's face. It wasn't personal. Adrian was about to wreck everything we built. Adrian was about to make us legitimate, Vincent snapped back. "There's a big difference." He gave Marcus a tiny nod. As Marcus walked toward him with a gun, a wave of nausea hit Elena. She had insisted on being here, on seeing this world, but the reality was a straight-up nightmare. "Wait." Elena's voice cut through the room like a razor. Every single person stared at her. Marcus shot her a look that screamed at her to shut up. "His punishment for Adrian's death has to be public," she announced, her voice steadier than she felt. "The other families are circling like sharks. They think we're weak. They have to see us clean our own house to know we're still strong." Vincent thought it over. "You want to put on a performance. I want to send a signal so loud and clear that every rival in this city gets the point." Romano started struggling against his bonds. "You can't do this. This is supposed to be private." "This is justice," Vincent said with a frozen smile. "And the girl has a point. We need to make damn sure everyone knows the price of betrayal. Marcus, arrange it. 3 days. Send out invites to the other families, all the major players. I want every last one of them to watch." Marcus put his weapon away. "It's as good as done." They dragged Romano out of the room, his yells echoing down the corridor. Soon it was just Elena, Marcus, and Vincent. "That was a genius play," Vincent told her. "Smart. Ruthless. Adrian was always too sentimental for moves like that, but you see what needs to be done." A sick feeling washed over Elena, but her face was a blank mask. "I see that power is the only thing people like this understand." "Excellent. In that case, you're going to love the proposal I'm about to make." Vincent leaned back in his chair. "I'm an old man, Elena. This job grinds you down. I've got maybe 5 good years left to run this thing." Adrian was meant to be my replacement, with Marcus as his enforcer, but my son is dead. And Marcus, he glanced at his other son. Marcus is a master of his craft, but he was never meant to be the boss. He's the blade in the dark, not the king on the throne. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. "I'm offering you a seat on the council," Vincent continued. "Real authority. You keep growing the legit businesses, act as our public face, and build the bridges we need in the straight world. Marcus will run security and handle all necessary business. The 2 of you, side by side, will lead this family into a new age. So, check it. This is Coronation Day, where the syndicate's brutal logic smashes right into Elena's head. The offer to replace Adrian isn't a promotion. It's a straight-up diss to the old guard's weakness." Vincent lays it out. "Adrian had the big ideas, but was too soft for the top job. In Elena, he sees a stone-cold mix of brains and savagery." Vincent then dips out, a total power move, leaving Elena to face the puppet master himself. "Marcus." She calls him out, not asking but telling him she knows he engineered this whole thing. Marcus's silence is all the confession she needs. He confirms she's not some pawn, but a queen. one with the syndicate's missing pieces, a strategic mind, an innocent look hiding pure steel and negotiation skills Adriana's kindness could never touch. When she demands to know why, Marcus admits it's a messed-up cocktail of survival and obsession. His main goal is to be the syndicate's top enforcer, no questions asked. But that's tangled up with a crazy protective need to keep Elena close, where he can shield her from enemies who see her as a liability. But then he admits that's not the whole story. His hand on her jaw flips the switch from business to something else entirely. The real prize, he says, is them, their alliance, building an empire as a team, and finally cashing in on the explosive contract between them. Elena's reply just shows how far she is from her old life. Drowning in her dead husband's legit businesses is one thing. The thought of running a whole criminal empire is pure insanity. The vibe between them was electric with the messed-up paradox of their whole deal. Elena could already hear the gossip painting her as a backstabbing black widow who clawed her way into power. Marcus just scoffs, calling it background noise. In their savage little world, he says, only one person's opinion counts, Vincent's. Everyone else can either bow down or get erased from the board. It's the simple, ugly truth of their life. Elena tries to slap a label on their partnership. If she takes this throne, what does that make them? He pauses for a beat before giving the only answer that works. They play it smart, stay vigilant, and give their enemies nothing. But between them, they finally admit what's really going on. A pretty hollow answer, she points out, and all he can say is that it's all he's got. He's not offering her flowers and romance. He's offering her a knight's oaths, swearing to be her weapon and her shield against anyone who comes for her. He pledges himself completely to her, whether she decides to rebuild the family's empire or burn it all down and go legit. He even promises to help her tear down the very kingdom his own father built. This is his answer to her silent question about their future. His loyalty is to her, not the organization. Whatever path she picks, he's her ride or die. In response, Elena gives him a kiss that's way more than just passion. It's a full-on transfer of all her unspoken fears, her savage ambition, and her terrifying resolve. A pact sealed in the fire of their shared nightmare. When he asks for her final answer, she hits him back with a calculated maybe. This ain't her flaking out. It's a demand for a test drive. Elena has to find out if she can actually sign off on ending Romano's life. She needs to feel the actual weight of the crown before agreeing to put it on. He agrees instantly. In 3 days, she'll get her answer. The meet is at a Varelli warehouse, a total power play. Neutral turf, so everyone has to show up, but private enough for them to be in complete control of the show. Elena's outfit is a statement piece. A sharp black suit and a severe hairstyle make her look like she's officiating a funeral for the old way of doing things. The warehouse is set up like a damn coliseum, with the bosses of the city's major crime families all gathered to watch the grim show. Romano is on his knees on a platform, the main event of this twisted trial. Elena sits at the head of the table, flanked by Vincent and Marcus, her clenched fists the only sign of the hurricane inside her. Vincent gets up, his voice booming with a formal indictment. He calls out Romano's crime, betrayal that got his own son killed, and reminds the room of the single, non-negotiable price for that kind of treason. But before the sentence drops, Vincent pivots to the real reason for the party, unveiling the new shot caller. He introduces Elena not as some grieving widow, but as the new powerhouse in charge of Adrian's entire portfolio. From now on, he announces, her word is law on all legit business fronts. A wave of whispers ripples through the room as all the sharks start recalculating their odds against this new player. At a quiet word from Marcus, Elena stands up, her gaze a cold challenge to the pack of predators running the city. Then Vincent drops the ultimate bomb, revealing that this whole public spectacle was her idea from the start. He gives her all the credit for the plan, framing her as the mastermind behind this massive power play. The family didn't just survive a hit, it came back stronger and way more lethal. Romano's execution suddenly transforms from simple revenge into the debut of her own brand of ruthless authority. As Marcus steps on the platform and draws his weapon, Romano starts making muffled noises. Elena is a statue, her eyes wide open, forcing herself to witness the bloody price of the power she's about to claim. The shot explodes in the silence, a sound of absolute finality. Romano drops. This, she understands, is the down payment for her crown. Not a single person in the audience even flinches. To this crowd, the hit was just another grim transaction. Marcus walks back to them with the casual air of a guy who just finished a boring chore, his face a complete blank. Vincent then delivers the closing remarks, a cold as ice warning that this little show should be burned into the memory of anyone else thinking of betraying them. The Varelli family code hadn't changed. They protect their own and obliterate their enemies. Only now they do it with more muscle and resolve. The meeting dissolves into a political performance, with reps from other crews rushing to kiss the ring. Several come up to Elena, offering fake condolences for Adrian that were just obvious attempts to feel her out. She played her role in the charade, a cold, hard understanding cementing inside her. This was her world now, a savage game of power and violence hidden under $1,000 suits and polite lies. Later, back at the quiet estate, Marcus finds her staring into the darkness. When he asks how she's doing, her answer is brutal. She watched him execute a man, a hit she basically ordered, and the main thing she felt wasn't horror but relief that a problem had been handled. He tries to spin it as being practical, calling her a realist, not a monster. But she just lets out a humorless laugh, commenting on how twisted she's become. A month ago, an act like that would have completely shattered her. Now, her mind is already grinding on how to leverage this whole event to secure their power. What am I becoming? Isn't just a question. It's her staring into the moral abyss. Marcus gets closer, trying to offer a softer take. She's a survivor, he says. Someone who adapts instead of shattering. Tough enough for this world without losing herself. His proof? The fact she's even asking the question. He says you don't lose your soul by doing the deed, but by when you stop questioning it. You're only really gone when you stop wondering if you've gone too far. But despite his words, Elena feels the undeniable gravity of a choice already made deep inside her. I'll take Vincent's offer, she says, finally giving voice to their unspoken deal. Her job would be to steer the family's future. He holds her, searching her eyes for the final truth, and she admits she's terrified, but her will is absolute. She lays down her one condition, not as a request, but as a term for her own coronation. They would operate as one unit, sharing the throne. The squeaky clean public image and the blood-drenched shadow operations would be totally merged. Every move would be a joint decision. For her to chain herself to him, he had to see her not as something to be protected, but as his equal on the battlefield. Marcus processes this total rewrite of their entire code, this revolution, and he folds. He agrees to the word partner, admitting his strength will now answer to her strategy in the wars ahead. And what about us? She asks, her voice low, finally addressing the undeclared treaty between them. Marcus pulls her closer, calling their bond a beautiful catastrophe, a gamble he's done avoiding. He wants all of it, and he wants her. She points out the political fallout, the toxic rumors their relationship will spark. Let them talk, he breathes, his kiss a slow, binding promise. This is a man who has spent his entire life serving his family, finally taking one thing just for himself, fusing the ice-cold demands of duty with the fire of his own want. The second Elena kissed him back, weeks of built-up tension just snapped. Look, their situation was a mess, dangerous, complicated, and a total lapse in judgment. But it was happening. And right then, reality was all that mattered. A sharp knock on the door blew the moment apart. "Miss Elena," Maria called out. "Mr. Vincent needs you in his study." Marcus immediately pulled away, his face hardening into that ice-cold professional mask. "I'm going with you." The second they stepped inside, the thick smell of cigars hit them. The old man looked drained but victorious. "Sit," he barked. Elena did. Marcus stood right behind her, a silent, deadly shadow. The other families were seriously impressed by tonight's little show. Vincent began, "You made one hell of an impact. They asked about your future here. I told them you're being groomed for our legit side, with big things planned." Elena leaned forward, cutting to the chase. And the result? They're watching, but they're not making a move. In our world, that's basically a welcome wagon. Vincent poured 3 shots of whiskey and handed them out. "I'm making your position official. You're now a full associate of this family. You get access to all the financials, a seat at the strategy table, and your vote is now equal to Marcus's." Elena grabbed the glass, her hand giving the slightest tremble. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. This job comes with a heavy price. You're a public figure now, a target. Our enemies will try to break you, buy you, or turn you. Every single thing you do reflects on us." "I get it." Vincent raised his glass. "To the future of the Barley family. Let's hope we're strong enough to see it." They drank, the whiskey burning a trail down Elena's throat. Over the next 3 months, Elena saw just how much power she now had. The legal businesses were a joke, just a front. Underneath was a network of shady deals, from money laundering and protection rackets to smuggling. She couldn't just gut the whole operation, but she started making moves, funneling money into clean investments that would eventually replace the dirty cash and building connections with legit players. It was a brutal, slow-motion reinvention, but she was getting results. Adrian's old crew, the guys who outed Romano, became her power base. They helped her navigate the treacherous family politics, fed her intel on threats, and backed her plays, even when the old guard pushed back. Marcus kept his word and became a true partner. Their fights were epic, clashing over tactics and the endgame. But they always found a compromise, a middle ground that balanced his need for security with her push to go legit. And in private, far from the family's prying eyes, they were building something that felt terrifyingly real. They stole time for themselves. Late nights in Marcus's office after the house fell silent. They found quiet mornings in Elena's suite before the daily chaos began. They shared fast, secret touches in hallways when they thought no one could see. It wasn't a normal life. It was never going to be, but it was theirs. 6 months after Adrian's death, Vincent called another family meeting. "I'm retiring," he announced, no sugarcoating it. My health's shot. I'm handing day-to-day control to Elena and Marcus. They'll run this family together. Elena gets the legit businesses and our public face. Marcus gets security and keeps our house in order. The news landed with a thud. Some of the guys nodded like they saw this coming. Others looked skeptical as hell, but no one said a word. Vincent's decree was still law. Any questions? Vincent asked. Caruso raised a hand. What happens if there's a major disagreement? Who gets the final say? Vincent's gaze shifted between Elena and Marcus. They'll work it out. I'm not going to be a backseat driver. After the meeting, Elena found Marcus in the armory, stripping his guns like it was meditation. This is actually happening, she said, her voice low. So it seems. He didn't even look up. You ready for this? Marcus finally put the gun down, his eyes locking on hers. Are you? I asked you first. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I'm terrified. You've been here 6 months and half the family is already loyal to you. I've been here my entire life, and I've never had to carry this kind of weight. We'll manage it, as a team, right? Marcus stood and closed the distance between them. Because we're going to clash on something huge with no easy out. What's the plan then? Elena had been losing sleep over that exact question. Then we talk until we find a compromise we can both stand. That's what a partnership is. And if we can't find one, then we flip a coin. She was only half joking. Or we can take turns on who has the final say, or bring someone else in. We have options that don't involve burning it all down. Marcus pulled her into a tight hug. You're really all in on this. On us. I'm all in on building something better than what we had. Whether that makes an us or just a partnership, we'll figure it out as we go. Elena looked up at him. And you? Are you all in? On you? Yes. On this bat crap crazy plan to reform a crime syndicate from the inside? Apparently, yes. He kissed her forehead. I must be losing my mind. Probably. Elena smiled against his chest. But at least we're losing our minds together. The next year was a trial by fire. 2 more hits on her life were shut down by Marcus's security. 3 hostile takeovers from rival families were crushed by Elena's strategy and Marcus's brutal tactics. A federal investigation almost took down senior members before Elena's lawyers found a loophole that made it vanish. But they held their ground. Hell, they did more than that. They started to win. The property portfolio blew up. Elena snagged 3 new hotels and a small restaurant chain, all squeaky clean and making bank. This new cash flow let her shut down 2 protection rackets and a smuggling operation, giving the men legit jobs instead. For some, the change felt agonizingly slow. Adrian's old guard wanted a revolution yesterday, but for the traditionalists, it was all moving way too fast. A handful of the old guard decided to bail on the family rather than change. Marcus was her rock through it all, backing her publicly while telling her the hard truths in private about what was possible versus what was a fantasy. He handled the guys who needed a firm hand while she built the legitimate pathways for their future. They learned each other's rhythms, their strengths, and their biggest fears. They learned when to attack and when to retreat. They learned how to fight without destroying each other and how to build each other up without being condescending. And somewhere in that chaos, the careful line they'd drawn between them started to disappear. It began with small stuff. Marcus's hand on the small of her back during meetings. Elena started to respond in her own quiet way. A quick touch on his arm, a shared glance that held a second too long. A whole silent language was building between them. Then one night, after a soul-crushing negotiation, Marcus went back to her room and just stayed. They never talked about it, never put a label on what was happening. Their affair remained a secret, buried in the shadows. The risk of being caught was a constant threat, but behind closed doors, they were creating something dangerously real. A year and a half after Adrian's death, Vincent sent for Elena. The old patriarch looked frail. The illness he'd hidden was finally winning. He was slumped in his chair, buried under a blanket despite the summer heat. "Sit," he said, his voice a dry whisper. "How are you feeling?" she asked gently. "Like a dying man, which is what I am," he replied, a faint smile on his lips. "The doctors give me 6 months tops." A heavy weight settled in Elena's chest. Vincent had given her a real shot, backing her vision for the family even when it went against everything he'd ever known. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "Don't be," he said. "I've lasted longer than most guys in our business, built a kingdom and dodged more bullets than I can even remember." He just wanted to know the family's future was solid. "It will be. Marcus and I—" Vincent cut her off. "I know what you two are doing. Don't play dumb." So, he wasn't blind after all. "You think you're being quiet, but Maria has been my eyes and ears for years." Elena felt completely exposed. "Sir, Stop. I don't care who you sleep with, as long as you lead my family well, and you are doing that." His eyes bored into hers. "This, though, needs your answer. Your heart is your business. I'm talking about power. What he's offering is a joint throne, a true alliance of equals." Vincent says with brutal honesty. "Adrian was the son I loved more. Marcus knows it. But Marcus was made for this world, and you are better than them both." In her, he saw Adrian's dream mixed with Marcus's raw power. With you two together, this family might actually go legit before it self-destructs. Elena's chest tightened. "What if we screw it up? Then that failure is all on you." "If you go down, it's for the mission, not for me," Vincent declared, his grip tight on her hand. "You make me proud, Elena. Adrian wanted to be your savior, but you ended up being our salvation." 21 days later, Vincent Varelli just clocks out. No fight, no fuss. His funeral is an absolute power play, drawing in every major family and a whole crew of city officials. At the graveside, Elena and Marcus are a united, unbreakable wall. Her outfit screams she's a Varelli now, while Marcus has his grief on total lockdown. The wake afterwards goes down at their seat of power. A line of mourners drops fake sympathies, their eyes scanning for any cracks in the new management now that the old lion's dead. Elena nails the performance, her politeness a thin cover for iron-fisted control. But after the last guest splits and the mansion goes dead quiet, she finds Marcus in the study. He's sitting in his dad's chair, staring blankly, a full glass of whiskey untouched. "Hey," she says, her voice barely a whisper. He glances up, his eyes drowning in a grief that won't spill a single tear. "He's really gone." "He is." Elena hops onto the corner of the desk. "How you holding up?" "I'm adrift. He was a monster who made me into a guy I can't stand," Marcus admits, his voice hollow. "But he was still my dad. Am I just supposed to step into his shoes now?" "You're not replacing him. We're building something else," she insists, covering his hand with hers. "Are we?" he counters. "Or are we just putting on a better acted version of the same corrupt show?" And boom, he drops the one fear she refused to look at. "We are making changes," she shoots back. "Slow, but for real. 3 operations are gone. 6 legit businesses are running. We've made new allies. And I ordered 2 guys killed last month, Marcus snaps, pulling his hand back. Don't paint this pretty, Elena. We're still killers, we just wear more expensive suits. So what's the play? We give up all our power, we just bail. I don't know what I want. He paces to the window. Vincent thought we could flip this. What if he was dead wrong? What if this is all we are? Then we make it a little less dirty. And then a little less after that. We keep grinding until we build something we're not ashamed of. That could take a lifetime. Then it'll take a lifetime. She forces him to face her. I didn't get into this because it was easy, Marcus. I got in because it mattered. He just looks at her for a long, silent beat before pulling her into a desperate hug, holding on like a man about to fall. I love you, he breathes out. The words a total shock to both of them. Everyone I love gets destroyed by this life. I love you too, and I'm not going anywhere. You can't promise that. Yes, I can, because I made a choice. I chose you. I chose this violent, screwed-up world where we try to fix a criminal empire and love each other at the same damn time. She leans back to lock eyes with him. I am all in, Marcus. I have been since I told Vincent I wouldn't run. He kisses her then, and it's a whole different vibe. This is a vow, not some desperate plea. When they part, she rests her forehead on his. We're going to survive this. What makes you so sure? Because we're in this together, not solo. A faint smile touches her lips. And because your father believed in us, that has to be worth something. A noise that's half laugh, half sob escapes Marcus. He'd probably hate what we've become, the soft-hearted killer and the widow who wouldn't stay in her lane. He'd be fascinated, Elena corrects, pulling him toward the desk. There's work to do. Just give me 1 minute. Take as long as you need. He gets his game face on, his expression hardening with quiet determination. Okay. 5 years after Adrian's death, the Varelli dynasty is a completely different animal. Of their 9 criminal operations, 7 have been shut down and turned into legit ventures. The last 2, gaming and high-stakes finance, are set to go clean within a 2-year window. The world isn't any safer. Rivals are always circling like sharks. But the days of nonstop violence are done. The fear Vincent threw around so easily is being replaced with actual hard-won respect. Elena now runs the legal businesses with laser focus, a public figure known for her savage deal-making and bold moves. For sure, rumors about her underworld connections never die down, but they're never proven. She gets on charity boards and hits up fundraisers, prying open doors the Varelli name used to bolt shut. Marcus has also changed his game. He's still the enforcer, but his crew now handles threats without leaving a trail of bodies. And get this, he's a university student, studying business and criminal justice. 1 year after Vincent's death, they took their relationship public. No more secrets. The family had no choice but to swallow it. Not one person dared to speak up, but the silent judgment was thick in the air. Elena was a hurricane, and Marcus was a live wire no one was stupid enough to touch. They escaped the city to a private spot, a sanctuary that was theirs alone, not the family's. And on a Saturday, 5 years and 3 months after Adrian became a memory, Marcus asked her to marry him. At sunrise, he held out a ring, his voice low. Look, I get what this is gonna look like, he began. The gossip will be insane. Too soon for them. An eternity for us. But I need this. I need you. I need to be done waiting. Her gaze shifted from the ring to his face, absorbing the weight of his words. 5 years, she said, the number itself feeling massive. The whispers will be a firestorm, that I moved on too fast, that I disrespected his memory, that I was with you even when I was with him. The hand Marcus held the ring in trembled once. Does what they think change what you know is true? Adrian's ghost popped into her head. Kind, gentle dying right in her arms. A life she could never bring back. She had mourned him, a constant ache in her heart. But the guilt had started to fade. Loving Marcus wasn't a betrayal of Adrian. It was a refusal to be a living memorial. No, she whispered, it changes nothing. Yes, I will marry you. The ring, a simple platinum and diamond band, slid on like it was made for her. Perfect, he murmured, pulling her into a kiss that sealed 1,000 unspoken contracts. This wasn't her first time marrying into the Varelli family, but it was the first time it was her decision. This wasn't a deal for survival. It was an alliance forged in fire with a man who saw her own darkness and didn't even flinch. We are absolutely insane, she said against his lips. A slight smile touched his. We have always been insane. This just makes it official. 3 months later, they were married quietly at the estate, with only their most loyal crew as witnesses, a world away from the prying eyes and gilded cages of their past. 5 years later, Maria was there with her again, like time was on a loop. This time, though, the hands adjusting her dress were steady. The woman in the mirror wasn't some scared girl bartered for protection, but a queen about to claim a throne she built herself. You look happy, Maria observed softly. I am, Elena confirmed, her eyes fixed on her reflection. The gown, a rich cream instead of pure white, felt like the truth. Is this wrong? She asked the room. After all of it, Maria's eyes got watery. Mr. Adrian, he would have wanted you to have this. He knew you didn't love him. He just wanted you to find someone you could. And I think, Maria continued, he would be happy that it was Mr. Marcus. The service was a short, no-nonsense deal run by a judge who'd been on their payroll for years. Elena's vows weren't just pretty words. They were anchors she dropped deep into Marcus's eyes. His promises back were just as solid, a commitment to share the entire burden. Their kiss wasn't an ending, but the first line of a wild new chapter. The garden party afterwards had a genuine warmth her first, ice-cold wedding could never have faked. The happiness was real, a total rebellion against the suffocating control of Vincent's reign. As dusk fell, Elena found a moment alone on a terrace, looking out over the fragile peace they had built. He found her there by the window, sliding his arms around her from behind. What do you see? He murmured. The distance, she replied, leaning into his solid frame. The insane gap between then and now. 5 years ago, I stood in a ballroom as my husband bled out. Tonight, I am married to his brother, a queen in his empire. She took a breath. It has been a brutal climb. A flash of old pain crossed her face. I will always grieve for Adrian, that this was the price. Turning to face him, her eyes met his. But I don't regret this. Never us. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Me neither. They stood in silence, watching the party, haunted and sanctified by their own survival. So what's next? Elena's question was a whisper against the dark. Now, he said, the ghost of a smile on his mouth, we build. We make our family name into something other than a curse. He continued, maybe, in time, we can even find a quiet life inside this broken world. I would want that, she said, rising to kiss him. but not yet. There is too much left to fix. Always, Marcus agreed, his arms tightening around her. But we fix it together. 10 years after Adrian's death, Elena Varelli stood before the city council. She laid out a new future for its forgotten districts, affordable housing and new job centers, a real path forward for the people everyone else left behind. Every last dollar was legit, pulled from clean Varley businesses, completely washing away the filth of their criminal empire. The council signed off on it, no questions asked. Marcus was waiting for her outside, her silent, unshakable rock. A decade had etched its story onto their faces, hardening some lines and softening others. But the bond between them, forged in fire and loss, was ironclad. "Wells," White was all he asked. "It's a go. We break ground next month." She grabbed his hand. "The Varley name is building things now, not breaking them." A look passed between them. Vincent would be spinning in his grave. Adrian would have loved this. The drive back to the estate was filled with a quiet calm they had paid for in blood. A new kind of quiet had settled over the estate, one with fewer hired guns and not as many dark corners. The old empire had been torn down piece by piece, its rotten foundation replaced with something that could actually stand in the daylight. But ghosts lingered, old rivals who only saw the family's bloody legacy. The change, however, was real. That night, lying next to Marcus, Elena thought back to the girl she was, arriving at this very house in a torn, blood-soaked wedding dress, a trapped animal, 100% sure her life was over. But she did more than survive. She conquered, turning her cage into a throne and building a future from the ashes that was worth dying for. "What's that smile for?" Marcus mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. "Us," she whispered back. "We won." "Won what?" "Everything." She snuggled closer. "We took down a corrupt empire and built an honest one. We outlived hitmen, our rivals, and the law itself. From the wreckage of our past, we made something real. We were the victors." He pulled her in tighter. "Our victory is never over," he said. "Just waking up every day is a win." "To our ongoing win, then," she answered, sealing it with a kiss. Beyond the glass, the city was spread out, a future waiting for them. The abyss that almost ate her alive 5 years ago hadn't vanished. It had just become another part of the landscape she now owned. But now she could walk right into that darkness, twist it to her will, and use it as a weapon instead of being destroyed by it. She had finally become the beast Marcus always knew she was, a force of nature in human form. The rules of the game were totally different. She was no longer some piece to be sacrificed, but a queen who had seized her own crown using her wits, her nerve, and a will that would never break again. The old Varelli dynasty was built on violence. Elena's new kingdom was built on sheer determination. That's the power you get when you write your own destiny. It wasn't the life she ever wanted, but it was the one she took, fought for, and earned. And that distinction made all the difference.
Life lesson: the biggest win in life is not revenge. It is refusing to become only what pain made possible. Now, this is where the story really punches the audience in the chest. Everybody thinks the big flex is revenge. Everybody thinks the coldest part is Marcus hunting traitors, stacking bodies, and making the room understand that betrayal comes with a receipt. And yes, on the surface, that is the hype moment. The Empire strikes back, the traitor falls, the enemies shut up real quick. But pause the movie for 1 second. That is not the real victory. The real victory is Elena looking at a life built on blood and saying, fine, she will learn the rules, but she will not worship them. The real victory is Marcus, a man trained to solve everything with force, slowly learning that power is not only about fear. The real victory is them taking an empire designed to consume people and forcing it piece by piece to become something that can actually build. Because here's the emotional trap this kind of story sets so well. Pain creates competence. Betrayal makes people sharp. Grief makes them disciplined. Rage makes them effective. And the terrifying thing is those tools work. Revenge works, control works, violence works, at least in the short term. That is why it is so seductive. But if a person only becomes efficient because they were broken, then the wound is still in charge. That is the part people miss. Marcus could have stayed the perfect weapon. Elena could have become a colder version of every person who tried to use her. They both had every excuse. Instead, they choose something harder than revenge. They choose reconstruction. That is slower, less glamorous, and far more painful because building demands patience while destruction only asks for anger. So the deepest lesson of the story is this. Pain can teach a person how to survive, but it must not be allowed to become the only architect of who they are. A broken heart can become wisdom. A betrayal can become discernment. A ruined life can become a new foundation, but only if the person decides they are more than what hurt them. That is the real boss move. Not killing the enemy. Becoming someone the enemy failed to define.